Chapter 725. Yi Xingchen's successful recovery proved that Yi Tianyun's alchemy skills were absolutely top-notch, and the effects of the pills were even more amazing. Yi Xingchen, who was originally pale and had a head full of white hair, had now returned to his normal state. He was full of vigor, and with his jet-black hair, he looked like he was in his 20s. 3 supreme-grade elixirs, each of which was equivalent to half a divine weapon. How could the effects be bad? Not only did it help him recover, but it also replenished a lot of vigor. There was a lot of vigor that he had not absorbed and could be stored. He could continue to absorb it in the future, and not only would it not be bad, it might even be stronger than before. However, it would still take some time for him to completely recover his cultivation. After sleeping for so many years, it was not that easy to recover. Especially with the shocking power of the bloodthirsty poison, the corrosion was more serious, so it would take a long time to recover. However, with this amazing antidote, it would not take too long. At most, he would be able to return to his peak in a year or so. Suo Kaifeng immediately began to make arrangements for them to live here, and everything was properly arranged. Although many people were resentful and expressed their dissatisfaction with Yi Tianyun, no one would do anything to him, and they all stayed obediently. The few of them received the highest standard of treatment. No one would believe that they could receive such treatment after killing 2 elders. The real inside story was equivalent to killing 2 traitors, so the treatment was definitely different. If the first elder and the third elder were killed by Yi Tianyun without any problems, Suo Kaifeng would definitely go after him instead of treating them well. That was simply the behavior of an idiot. In any case, the matter had come to an end. After resting for a few days, Suo Kaifeng invited them to the main hall. In these few days, Yi Xingchen learned everything. While he was angry at the 2 elders for their treachery, he was more impressed that his son was too strong, and had already surpassed him. During this period, they had a lot of communication, and their intimacy level had skyrocketed. Clan leader. When they entered, they saw Suo Kaifeng standing on the side with a cane. Looking at his back, they all sighed. Suo Kaifeng couldn't hold on for too long. Now that this problem had appeared, it was quite serious. "You're here." Suo Kaifeng turned around and looked at them. He smiled faintly and said, "I'm sure you've already guessed it in your heart." Actually, his goal is very simple. He wants you all to return to the sealed sky divine kingdom. Although we have done many things wrong, this is a rule that has been ingrained in us for many years. We can only choose to compromise. However, I believe that after I hand it over to you, the Fengtian Divine Kingdom will definitely undergo great changes. The future of the sky-sealing Divine Kingdom will depend on you. Patriarch, what do you mean? Yi Yuanlong was shocked. I plan to pass the position of Patriarch to you. Or rather, I've been planning to pass it to you from the very beginning. The Great Elder and the Third Elder aren't bad, but I could tell that they were too ambitious. Compared to you, I don't have much ambition, but I'm too stubborn. Sometimes, I need a little ambition to stimulate me. Suo Kaifeng smiled faintly and said, "Now, my greatest wish is for you all to return. I can't deny that I like Tianyun's strength. He can make up for the loss of the 2 great elders. Although the sky-sealing divine kingdom is doing well, it's actually not as good as it used to be. If a powerful enemy invades, we might be defeated." Suo Kaifeng's words were very straightforward. He didn't beat around the bush or play any tricks. He knew that he didn't have much time left. There was no need to do this. He could only keep them here. Otherwise, it would be meaningless. Patriarch, I've said it before. Everything depends on father. Yi Tianyun threw the question to Yi Xingchen. He wanted to hear his opinion. Yi Xingchen was silent for a moment. Then, he nodded and said, "I know that even if we return, there will still be many people who reject us. However, I still plan to return with Ling He. I owe this place too much. I need to make up for it. Although there are many obstacles, I believe that with hard work, many people will change their mind. However, Tianyun's situation is a little complicated. He has power in the mortal realm and can't bear to give it up. I'm not a responsible father. I can't decide whether he stays or goes. It's still up to him." Yi Xingchen looked at Yi Tianyun and threw the question back at him. The reason was that simple. It wasn't that Yi Xingchen was trying to shirk his responsibility. He just felt that he wasn't responsible enough to decide Yi Tianyun's situation. Everyone's eyes gathered on him again. They wanted to hear what he had to say. I'm afraid I can't join this place. However, the Fengtian Divine Kingdom is in trouble. I will definitely help. Yi Tianyun didn't choose to join. He could only say that he would help if needed. After all, his parents and grandfather were here. He couldn't just ignore them. Suo Kaifeng was disappointed. However, he was comforted when he heard that he could help. He couldn't force anything. If they didn't reject outsiders marrying, Yi Tianyun would definitely stay here. Moreover, there's something very important. It's not just our problem. It's the problem of the three realms. He briefly explained the situation. It was the problem of the demons sealed by the three godly kings. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect such a thing to happen. How could they not be shocked when the end of the world would happen in 100 years? I've read about this. There are records of this in the documents left by our ancestors. They said that they were sealing the demons in the mortal realm. They didn't say where exactly. I didn't expect the demons to still be alive after so many years. Suo Kaifeng was shocked. They were just as shocked. Because they had to face a godly king. If a godly king appeared, the three realms would be greatly affected. If there were no other godly kings to resist, they wouldn't be able to resist. Yes. Not only is it not dead, it's getting stronger. Yi Tianyun said in a low voice, that's why I have to build a stronger force or join forces with the powerhouses of other god nations. I have to get all the powerful god nations of the three realms to join forces. Otherwise, it'll be hard to resist. 100 years, Suo Kaifeng thought for a while and said, I will seal myself. When the demons appear, I will definitely come out with the patriarch to suppress them. There was another patriarch in the Fengtian Divine Kingdom. His cultivation was higher than his, but he was too old. Coming out was equivalent to dying. He wouldn't come out unless it was critical. Once he did, he would die for sure. But with our current forces, it's too difficult to deal with a godly king. Suo Kaifeng shook his head. His heart trembled at the thought of godly king. This was a supreme existence. Once they attacked, they would die. That's why we have to see if there are other godly kings. Yi Tianyun said in a low voice. Godly kings? I haven't heard of them in a long time. Maybe they don't exist. Maybe they're in seclusion. I'm afraid there are no godly kings in the three realms. Suo Kaifeng shook his head. If there were godly kings in the three realms, they would have established the strongest empire a long time ago. They would even be ambitious enough to unify a large territory. Especially when a godly king appeared. The world would definitely change. It would be hard not to know. If there are no godly kings, I will break through to become a godly king. Yi Tianyun's voice was powerful and full of confidence. After I break through to become a godly king, I will kill this demon once and for all. Chapter 726. Yi Tianyun's ambition deeply shocked them. Then, Suo Kaifeng laughed and looked at him. You are young and full of vigor. Well said. I look forward to the day you become a divine king. The path to becoming a divine king is extremely difficult. If you don't even have the confidence, how can you become a divine king? Yes, it is a little difficult to become a divine king, but as long as you work hard, you still have a high chance. Yi Xingchen also encouraged him. The others also looked at him encouragingly. They didn't think that Yi Tianyun would definitely become a divine king. They only thought that he had a chance to become a divine king. After all, he was still young and had a lot of time. Who knows, he might really become a divine king. As for those who believed that he would be able to break through to the divine king stage, it was too exaggerated. No one dared to guarantee it. This was especially the case when it wasn't that there weren't these types of geniuses. They reached extremely terrifying cultivation at a young age, but they quickly reached their limits, unable to take even half a step forward. Therefore, they didn't dare to say anything. They could only say that they had to work hard and have a chance to become a divine king. Yi Tianyun knew what they were thinking, but he didn't think much of it. It was too difficult to become a divine king. If it was easy, there would be at least 1 or 2 divine kings around. But now, there were no divine kings. Even the number 1 faction didn't have a divine king. There were a few peak saint kings, but none of them could become divine kings. It was like they were stuck in something. It wasn't that they didn't have the ability to break through, but they were blocked by something. Then, he felt a warmth in his hand. When he turned around, he saw that it was Shushuyun holding his hand gently. Her eyes were full of confidence. "I believe in you." She didn't say much, just 4 words. She believed that Yi Tianyun would definitely become a divine king. She believed that her man could definitely become a divine king, the king of the 3 realms. Yi Tianyun smiled. With her trust and support, it's enough for him. We don't have much time left in 100 years. Therefore, I plan to go to the underworld to take a look and find another godly king to establish a faction. We need to work together to have a chance of dealing with this demon. Yi Tianyun said solemnly, "Perhaps I will be able to suppress this demon in the future. However, I have a feeling that other than this demon, there will be more demons barging in. When the time comes, all of us will have to work together to resist, and not be separated like we are now. More fiendish demons are charging in." They looked at each other in dismay. This was a rather terrifying thing, but when they thought about it carefully, it wasn't impossible. Since the first fiendish demon had barged in, there would definitely be more fiendish demons barging in. It was only a matter of time. "Child, the responsibility you shoulder is too heavy." Suo Kaifeng sighed and said, "That's right, since you don't plan to stay here and need to return to the mortal world to manage your forces, before you leave, the only thing I can help you with is to bring you to obtain the inheritance of my ancestors." Patriarch Yi Yuanlong and the others revealed shocked expressions. One must know that in order to feel the inheritance of their ancestors, one must be a patriarch or an elder. Now, even Yi Tianyun didn't plan to join, and he was allowed to go. "I know what you are thinking. At this stage, and Tianyun is a descendant of our ancestors, obtaining the inheritance shouldn't be much of a problem. It's just that his bloodline is thin, so the effect might be a little weaker. But it's better than nothing. As for the other elders or others who object, Tianyun can become our elder. He doesn't need to manage anything, and can move around freely. That shouldn't be a problem, right?" Suo Kaifeng looked at Yi Tianyun, wanting to hear what he had to say. "No problem, becoming an elder is not a problem at all. However, I feel that there will be many who object to me becoming an elder." Yi Tianyun laughed at himself. He had killed 2 elders, so many who originally stood on the side of the great elder would definitely object. "Don't worry, even if they object, I will force you to become an elder." Suo Kaifeng's voice was full of majesty. "If there is no problem, I plan to take you to obtain the inheritance of our ancestors now. What do you think?" "Of course, there is no problem." Yi Tianyun smiled. He didn't reject any inheritance, the more the better. He was especially curious about the power of the stars. His bloodline was a little thin, but if he could obtain the corresponding awakening, he would definitely be able to erupt with greater power. Who would dislike having too much power? Of course, the more the better. Then, under Suo Kaifeng's lead, they went straight to the peak of the heaven-sealing God Mountain. There were many disciples guarding this place, and they were all at the void spirit stage. When they saw Suo Kaifeng coming over, they all opened up a path to let them in. However, on their way in, they immediately heard a shout behind them. "Patriarch! Patriarch!" Following that, a group of people rushed over. Most of them were elite disciples, and each of them was a pillar of the heaven-sealing divine kingdom. "What's going on?" Suo Kaifeng looked at them with a calm expression. None of this was out of his expectations. "Patriarch, are you bringing them to the heaven-sealing divine monument at the peak of the mountain?" The person leading the group was the 5th elder of the heaven-sealing divine kingdom. "Yes, is there a problem?" Suo Kaifeng said indifferently. "There is no problem. Normally, people will go to the heaven-sealing divine monument to accept the inheritance. Who are you sending to accept the inheritance?" The 5th elder's face was solemn, and the disciples following behind him also had stern faces. Their gazes were not very friendly, and it was obvious that they had come with ill intentions. "I'm sending him to accept the inheritance." Suo Kaifeng pointed at Yi Tianyun and said, "Patriarch, you can't do that. He hasn't joined the heaven-sealing divine kingdom, and he isn't even an elder. He can't accept the inheritance." The fifth elder's face darkened. It was just as he had expected. A large number of people were heading towards the inheritance. As for the person who was going to receive it, it was undoubtedly Yi Tianyun. Both Yi Yuanlong and Yi Xingchen had accepted the inheritance, so it couldn't be them. "I'm officially announcing that he will be the second elder, replacing the second elder," Suo Kaifeng announced. "I was planning to announce it later, but since the fifth elder has said so, I'll announce it now. The second elder will inherit my position and become the patriarch of the heaven-sealing divine kingdom. Yi Xingchen will also become the first elder." The sudden announcement shocked many people. Not only would Yi Tianyun become the second elder, but Yi Yuanlong would also become the next patriarch. Even Yi Xingchen had become the first elder. This meant that the entire family held the most authority. Who would dare to oppose them? Chapter 727. Suo Kaifeng's announcement stunned them. Even if they had guessed it, they did not expect all of them to become elders. Would there still be a place for them then? Yi Tianyun was stunned. He thought that Suo Kaifeng was really bold to make Yi Yuanlong the clan leader. This was not a problem at all. However, making him and Yi Xingchen an elder was another matter altogether. It was true that Yi Xingchen was originally a member of the clan, but in theory, he was considered a traitor. Although he had rejoined the clan, it was too much of a joke for him to immediately become the Grand Elder. "Clan leader, you mustn't do this. We have absolutely no objection to the second elder becoming the clan leader, but why were Yi Xingchen and his son able to become the elders? They have not contributed to the clan at all, nor do they have any prestige. If they become elders just like that, it will definitely cause chaos." The fifth elder's expression was solemn. It was not that he was spouting nonsense, but if he really did this, he would definitely feel that Suo Kaifeng was being too casual. It was as if he was old and blind, and his brain was not working properly. That was why he made such a ridiculous decision. Things did not go beyond Yi Tianyun's expectations. There would definitely be people who would talk about this. After all, it was inevitable. Yi Xingchen also nodded. He felt that he should not do this. Even if he had returned, he should have accumulated his power bit by bit to gain the recognition of his fellow disciples. Otherwise, without prestige, it would be difficult to convince the masses. At that time, no matter what he said, no one would listen. It was useless to just have a position. No one would listen, and it would be no different from having none. Xingchen had already been chosen as the next elder a long time ago. Many people agreed on this. However, the situation changed, and everyone rejected the two of them together, which caused this problem. Suo Kaifeng said coldly, "If it wasn't for the previous Grand Elder and the third elder rejecting the two of them, would they have ended up in this situation? In fact, they chose to reject the two of them so that they could secure their positions, which made many people oppose them. Now, open your eyes wide and take a look. Are the sons they gave birth to inferior?" The patriarch's aura instantly suppressed them, rendering them speechless. If the two elders had not rejected him, Yi Yuanlong would have become the clan leader and Yi Xingchen would have been qualified to be an elder. Yi Tianyun's cultivation was so strong that he didn't feel any pressure at all when he became an elder. His strength was outstanding, and yet he was not given the position of an elder. Wasn't he looking down on him too much? Even if he didn't have any real power, he should at least be an elder. There was no doubt that strength reigned supreme. Yi Tianyun took a deep look at him. No wonder Suo Kaifeng said he was confident. It sounded reasonable. To put it bluntly, if it weren't for the fact that some people were idiots, they would have done it long ago for their own selfish interests. Now, he was just reascending. He was ascending according to the previous rules, and he didn't break any rules. Everyone looked at each other. That was indeed the case. The people of the sky-sealing divine nation really had to take responsibility for what had happened in the past. Even so, it's still not enough. At this time, a young man stood up and looked coldly at Yi Tianyun. His cultivation is very strong, but you must know that the person receiving the inheritance must have a high concentration of bloodline. I've checked his concentration before, And it's very low, almost negligible. A strong cultivation can become an elder, but the inheritance shouldn't be suitable, right? If he can do it with such a thin bloodline, then why can't I? The person who stood up was none other than the #1 prodigy of the sky-sealing divine nation, Yi Feilong. Looking at his furious expression, it was obvious that he was not on their side. He was probably on good terms with the first elder or the third elder. Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes at this person. Yi Feilong's cultivation was not bad. At such a young age, he had already reached the 6th or 7th layer of the void spirit stage. Of course, compared to him, he was worlds apart. Pa! Yi Tianyun swung his hand and slapped Yi Feilong, sending him flying. Yi Feilong even rolled a few times. He looked at him indifferently and said, "Do you know what the problem is now? If it weren't for the fact that his grandfather was preparing to become the patriarch, and other matters, he would have slapped Yi Feilong to death." This was why he was a little unhappy. He wanted to hit Yi Feilong, but he couldn't. It wasn't that he was too merciful, but in theory, Yi Feilong was on his side. Yi Feilong was stunned. As expected, he slapped someone without saying a word. He didn't even know what was going on. Hearing Yi Tianyun's words, he was even more confused. What did he mean by knowing the problem? What the hell? You actually dare to hit me? Yi Feilong shouted, "I don't know anything. I only know that you are too cruel. Other than bullying people, what else do you know?" Pa! Yi Tianyun slapped him again, sending him flying again. This time, his mouth was full of blood, and he was slapped silly. Cruel? Why don't you try saying cruel to your enemy? In this world, strength is everything. You want to reason with others. In this world, the one with the bigger fist is the true truth. The winner takes all, and the winner becomes the true king. Yi Tianyun said coldly, "My fist is big. Just this alone is enough. Whoever doesn't treat me well, I'll kill them. Whoever is willing to submit to me, I'll be willing to treat them well. It's that simple, and I don't talk nonsense. No matter how good your reasoning is, it can't be compared to a punch from someone else. Do you understand, idiot? A bunch of arrogant people who think they're so great, but you haven't even been to a real battlefield. How many dangerous places have you been to? How many life-and-death battles have you participated in? Looking at your pathetic faces, I know that you haven't participated in any. You've all been holed up here cultivating. When the real enemy attacks, you'll be the first to die. A bunch of trash. If it weren't for Grandpa managing this place from now on, I would have destroyed all of you with a slap. When the time comes, we'll see if your reasoning is more useful, or my fist is more useful. What **T reasoning are you talking about? The real reason is to use the strongest power to make everyone submit to you, without any resistance. The Fengtian divine kingdom wasn't established by reasoning, but by using one's own fists. Do you understand?" His words were powerful, and many of the disciples were stunned. Because of the Fengtian divine kingdom, most people wouldn't find trouble with them. Thus, many of them hadn't experienced any bloody battles, let alone dangerous situations. How would they dare to casually send people to dangerous places? At most, they would send them outside to kill weaker demonic beasts. When they heard this, they were all dumbfounded. They were obviously about the same age, but their auras and tone were completely different. The things they had experienced were also completely different. Chapter 728. Yi Tianyun's words made many people nod, especially Suo Keifeng's group. They definitely have a deep understanding of Yi Tianyun. Whose fist was the hard truth? What **T reasoning? It was all **T. If one could conquer the world with just their mouth, what was the point of cultivation? First, suppress everything with the strongest power, then slowly build up their strength. That was the best way. If everyone disobeyed, how could they manage? If they couldn't even manage, how could they become strong? That was simply wishful thinking. The disciples were dumbfounded and didn't know what to say. Yi Tianyun's words had a huge impact on them. What **T reasoning? A single punch was better than 1,000 mouths. Let's go back to the original point. Why am I qualified to obtain the inheritance? Even if I don't have any bloodline, I'm qualified to go. It's very simple. I'm strong enough. Just this point alone is enough. If the Fengtian divine kingdom is weak, and the other divine kingdoms attack, you can reason with them and say that their bloodline is too weak to accept the inheritance. Do you think they'll listen to you and scram obediently? Don't be silly, you bunch of idiots. To them, it doesn't matter if they can use the inheritance or not. They'll just occupy it. Yi Tianyun's words made sense. He didn't use his fists on them. If it wasn't for the fact that they were related to the Fengtian divine kingdom, he wouldn't have bothered with them. Yi Feilong covered his mouth in silence. He didn't dare to say anything. Yi Tianyun was right. If the Fengtian divine kingdom was any weaker, they would have been destroyed long ago. At that time, reasoning would be useful. If it was, then it would be useless. Well said. Suo Kaifeng looked at them and said coldly, "This is the reason why I made him an elder. No matter how weak his bloodline is, he must accept the inheritance. Even if it's just a small increase, it's equivalent to strengthening him. After all, he has the bloodline of the Fengtian divine kingdom. He's one of us, not an outsider. I'm sure all of you can tell that I'm on the verge of collapsing. I'm just trying to save some foundation for the celestial sealing kingdom. So many divine nations have been eyeing our ancestors' inheritance for many years. Don't think that this place is unbreakable. Once our enemies realize that we have weakened or that our forces are unable to keep up, they will immediately lead their troops to flatten our Fengtian divine kingdom." "Patriarch," they cried out sorrowfully. They wanted to say something else, but it was as if something was stuck in their throats. Not a single word came out. Moreover, do you really think that he will hold the power here and stay here forever? Suo Kaifeng shook his head. If it weren't for his nostalgia, I'm afraid he would have left long ago. I have my own empire, I personally established it. I believe that it will soon become a divine nation's power. Yi Tianyun coldly said, "I have no interest in Fengtian divine nation. To be honest, I don't care about power or resources. To tell you the truth, I'm the inheritor of the heaven-creating divine king. Just having the inheritance of the heaven-creating divine king is enough." These words shocked them. Everyone knew that the heaven-creating divine king was superior to the king of the heavens. With the inheritance of the heaven-creating divine king, there was no need for the king of the heavens' inheritance. What was even more exaggerated was that Yi Tianyun had created his own empire. Although there was a huge gap between an empire and a divine nation, it was inconceivable that he could create his own empire at such a young age. All of them were stunned. The group of young disciples looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They looked about the same age, but why was the gap between them getting bigger and bigger? Obtaining the inheritance and creating an empire felt like a miracle. Yi Tianyun was trying so hard to persuade them. Wasn't it for the sake of Fengtian divine nation and his grandfather? After all, this was his grandfather's territory in the future. Thinking back to the previous situation, when did he become so long-winded? He could just slap them to death. What did their life and death have to do with him? It was like his own child. No matter how much trouble he caused, he could only slowly teach him instead of killing him with a stick. In the future, he would have to rely on the younger generation to fight against the monsters and demons. The inheritance I have now, in addition to what I deserve, is more of a kind of compensation, Yi Tianyun said in a deep voice. Think about what kind of compensation it is. Compensation. Needless to say, it was the trouble caused by the two elders. Killing them and compensating them with the heavenly fragrant divine grass was enough? Of course not. If they didn't reject it, they would have gotten more. Under the continuous bombardment, all of them were frightened and couldn't say a word of objection. Even the fifth elder didn't know what to say. They were all intimidated by Yi Tianyun. Suddenly, they felt that giving Yi Tianyun the inheritance was equivalent to giving them a reward. If not, Yi Tianyun wouldn't stay here. If Yi Tianyun didn't stay here, it would mean that there would be one less expert to hold the fort. That would be embarrassing. Soon after, Suo Kaifeng smiled faintly and continued to lead them forward. This time, no one refused him. But they still felt it was unfair that they could receive an inheritance with such a thin bloodline. The main thing was that if they received an inheritance with a thin bloodline, the effect would be very poor. It was a waste. Soon, they came to the top of the mountain. There was a stone tablet on the side. It was covered with dense divine runes. They didn't know what it was used for. The divine bloodline tablet. Yi Tianyun looked at the stone tablet and immediately knew what it was. It was specially used to test the power of bloodlines. Back then, it was used to test his and everyone else's bloodline. Wait a minute. Just as they were about to continue in, another voice came from behind. Then, a group of people came in from outside. It was obvious that they were from another group, and they were also the elites here. Clan leader, what's going on? It was the sixth elder. There were many elders here, but none of them didn't oppose Yi Tianyun receiving the inheritance. What's wrong with bringing the second elder to receive the inheritance? Suo Kaifeng said calmly. You can't do that. The bloodline density is too low. Even if you receive the inheritance, the effect will be very poor. If you can't even reach the standard, it will be a waste. The sixth elder was the same as the previous group of people. They were all here to stop Yi Tianyun from receiving the inheritance. After one group was intimidated, another group came. But he wouldn't say it again. Why not? No matter how bad the effect is, there will still be some. Even if it's a waste of the number of times, it's still worth it. Suo Kaifeng said in a deep voice. I am still the clan leader, so I have the final say. Chapter 729. Clan leader, you mustn't. Sixth elder knelt down and cried, now that the number of words in the inheritance has decreased greatly, there aren't many chances left. Instead of wasting it, why don't we use it on the stronger disciples? I know he's very powerful, but this is a waste. If the bloodline is too weak, the effect is almost negligible. Not only sixth elder, but everyone else also knelt down. Only the group of people brought by fifth elder did not join in the persuasion. Yi Tianyun glanced at them and found that his speech could increase their favorability. He found that these people's favorability quickly increased to more than 50 to 60 after his speech, and some were even about to break 100. These people were all around the same age, and were easily influenced by his words. Especially such a legendary achievement, it was easy to attract their admiration. Especially his strength was very strong. When stacked, the favorability would increase very easily. He smiled slightly. It seemed that conquering this place was not as difficult as he thought. It seems that you don't treat me as the clan leader anymore. Suo Kaifeng frowned, and his aura immediately increased. No, no. Sixth elder's heart trembled, and he said while prostrating on the ground, I just want to think about the future. I'd rather give everything I have to second elder as compensation, than to waste this opportunity. So far, the inheritance is about to collapse after less than 10 chances, and every chance has to be used on the disciple with the best bloodline. There's no need to say any more. Just do as I say. Suo Kaifeng ignored him. The only thing he could do now was to rely on the inheritance stone tablet to make Yi Tianyun stay, which was equivalent to a kind of compensation. The rest were quite ordinary. Even the divine weapons were the same. No matter how powerful a divine weapon was, could it compare to a set of divine weapons? I want to test the concentration of the bloodline again. At this moment, Yi Tianyun stood up and said, Sixth elder is indeed more considerate. If my bloodline is really not up to standard, then I am willing to give up this inheritance. He did not expect that there was a limit to the number of times. It seemed that this inheritance stone tablet had been used too many times, causing it to collapse. Everyone was stunned. Wasn't this a slap in the face? They could have walked further away, but they didn't want others to look at this place. Back when Yi Tianyun had taken the test, there had only been a slight fluctuation. If it had been any other disciple, it would have been an utter humiliation, and they would never be placed in an important position in their lives. Now that Yi Tianyun came to take the test, wouldn't he be recalling the pain of the past? The patriarch had clearly tried his best to protect him. If he had persisted a little longer, he would have definitely gotten the inheritance this time. However, he still said that. Instantly, everyone's favorability towards him increased greatly. Those who originally hated Yi Tianyun now had a favorable impression of him. At the very least, it wouldn't be a negative number. It had been a long time since he had taken a close look at his favorability. He had been running around all this time and hadn't been in the mood to tame them. It didn't matter what their favorability was. If possible, he also did not want to fall out with the sky-sealing divine kingdom. Now, it seemed that everything was going smoothly. The sixth elder and the others were overjoyed. They looked up at Yi Tianyun and said, "Thank you, second elder." They didn't have any objections to Yi Tianyun becoming the second elder. With his strength, they could only approve of him. However, obtaining the inheritance was another matter. The benefits were too low, and they really didn't want to waste this opportunity. Suo Kaifeng frowned, but he still nodded and said, "All right, let's take the test." Everyone had strange expressions on their faces. Some shook their heads, thinking that Yi Tianyun was trying to embarrass himself. He had dared to take the test even though his bloodline was so weak. If they were in his shoes, they wouldn't dare to try again. In any case, no matter how many times he tried, the result would be the same. However, they only thought about it in their hearts. They didn't say it out loud. Yi Tianyun's words were too shocking. So what if his bloodline was weak? Just this achievement alone was enough for him to look down on everyone. Shortly after, Yi Tianyun walked up to the bloodline stone tablet and smiled. Who said that his bloodline would definitely be weak? His bloodline had already become extremely powerful over the years. As for the bloodline of the King of the Heavens, he wasn't too sure. However, he believed that it would definitely be strengthened. Moreover, it was very likely that he had been poisoned by the bloodthirsty poison. That was why such a situation occurred. No matter how weak his bloodline was, it should be able to pass, right? Shortly after, he placed his hand on the bloodline stone tablet. With a buzzing sound, his bloodline emitted a dazzling light and shot up to the sky. Looking up from where he was, it wasn't a ceiling. Instead, it was an empty space, forming a patio. When the light shot up to the sky, it instantly lit up one of the stars in the sky. Soon after, the second star was lit up. Almost instantaneously, the second star was lit up. Then, the third star was lit up. Everyone was dumbfounded. The passing line for the bloodline test wasn't high. You only needed to light up one of them to pass. This was just the beginning and he had already lit up 2 stars. He was even preparing to light up the third. This is already 2 stars. Our son's bloodline isn't weak. It's not weak at all. Jiao Linghe was so excited that tears were about to fall from her eyes. Yes. Yi Xingchen nodded heavily. Previously, no matter how he tested it, there was no effect at all. Not to mention lighting up 1 star, he didn't even have the slightest effect. This bloodline stone tablet didn't require any spiritual energy to activate. All he needed was the power of his bloodline. The others were even more shocked. They thought that not a single star would be lit up this time. In the blink of an eye, 2 stars were lit up. Very quickly, he continued to light up the third star and moved on to the fourth. There were a total of 9 stars here. He had already lit up more than half of them. He can't possibly have more than 5 stars, right? Everyone was dumbfounded. The strongest among them, the Grand Elder, could only light up 4 stars at most. As for the clan leader, he could only light up 5 stars. Yi Xingchen and Yi Feilong were known as the #1 geniuses. Just by lighting up 5 stars, they were already known as the strongest geniuses. As for those who had more than 5 stars, that was a thing of the past. Now, those who could light up 4 stars were already listed as targets to be groomed. Very quickly, Yi Tianyun lit up the 4th star and moved on to the 5th. The sky was filled with a dazzling radiance. Everyone in the Fengtian Divine Kingdom raised their heads in shock and looked at the dazzling stars. Who could have caused such a change? Buzz. Following which, the 5th star was completely lit up and moved on to the 6th star. There was no problem at all. In fact, there was plenty of energy left. The lighting speed was quite fast. In the blink of an eye, a star was lit up, including the 6th star. Buzz. The 6th star in the sky lit up the Fengtian Divine Kingdom. Countless rays of light shone down like a miracle. Chapter 730. 6 stars. How many years had it been since anyone had managed to light up this star? Other than the sleeping ancestor lying on the ground, it was hard to find a living person who could light up 6 stars. This meant that the purity of the bloodline was very high, and it was a very shocking one. I'm not dreaming, right? 6 stars have been lit up, the 7th is about to be lit up. I'm not dreaming. He really did light up 6 stars, and is about to light up the 7th. Who the F***ck said that his bloodline is weak? He's already lit up 6 stars. What the hell, it's different from what we said. What happened? Could it be that there's a phenomenon of bloodline atavism? Did he achieve a breakthrough after his cultivation increased? I've never heard of this before. Most of the time, the results are the same when they are tested again. It's not like you haven't seen it before. The clan leader and the others have tested it before, and the number of stars that can be lit up is still the same. There's no change. Instantly, the disciples on the ground were in an uproar, and so were the disciples outside. They did not know who had created this miracle, but their hearts were filled with admiration. It was as if they were witnessing the birth of a miracle. Many disciples swarmed over from other places. They could not go up, but they could still witness everything from below. His already prepared 7 stars. Suo Kaifeng was shocked. He had previously tried to protect Yi Tianyun, thinking that he could not possibly have a strong bloodline. He was only willing to sacrifice himself to keep Yi Tianyun here. If Yi Tianyun's cultivation was weak, he would not have bothered. Respect for martial prowess was an unchangeable principle, and it was the same for people of the same clan. Most people thought that they had seen a ghost. One must know that they had all been tested before, and many people had seen it. They wanted to give Yi Xingchen a chance to see how strong their son's bloodline was, but who knew that there was no effect at all? I know. Jiao Linghe shouted, it must be the bloodthirsty poison. He must have been poisoned back then, that's why there's no effect at all. What? He was poisoned back then? Suo Kaifeng and the others were shocked. Although they had heard of it before, they did not know the details. Now that they thought about it carefully, Suo Kaifeng and the others' expressions turned ugly. Could it be that they knew about Tianyun's situation? That his powerful bloodline was a threat to their position, and that was why they poisoned him? Suo Kaifeng and the others were so angry that they wanted nothing more than to drag them out and whip their corpses. However, they had already turned into a pile of ashes, and it was impossible to whip their corpses. That's possible, but it's also possible that they're trying to kill us all. No matter what bloodline they have, they're trying to use poison to kill us. Yi Yuanlong's eyes were cold. If he had known about this earlier, there wouldn't have been so many problems. In fact, it might even affect the structure of the entire Fengtian divine kingdom so that it wouldn't be too xenophobic. However, all of this had been erased by the first elder and the third elder. They had been forcefully erased almost 20 years ago. Otherwise, such tragedies would not have happened. It could be said that there were many. Apart from the 2 of them, there were many cultivators who went out and met good women, but they couldn't get together. It was really a sad thing. From now on, this matter will be very easy to solve. I thought that it would take a lot of time to change. But now it seems that it won't take too much time. Suo Kaifeng laughed. With this precedent, it meant that everything depended on who had the bloodline, and it didn't need to be a strong combination. The effect would definitely be better if it was a strong combination, but it didn't mean that it would be worse if it was an ordinary combination. Everything depended on the person. If the other party's talent was not weak, the effect would definitely not be weak. Yi Tianyun didn't care so much. He just looked at the stars in the sky and smiled. This was the result he wanted to see. With the increase of his cultivation and the strengthening of his bloodline power. Although the bloodline of the phoenix and the bloodline of the god of the dragon had nothing to do with the king of the heavens, they could all strengthen and stimulate the power in his body. When he became stronger, the power of the bloodline hidden in his body would also become stronger. However, it didn't show its true power. It didn't show in the bloodline section that he had obtained any bloodline power. It hadn't been shown. It seemed that he had to stimulate it to turn it into his own power. This power should be the inheritance. It seemed that he had to obtain this inheritance no matter what. But looking at the situation now, even if he didn't want it, others would fight to let him obtain it. Wang. The 7th star was quickly lit up. Outside, There were already thousands of rays of light shining down, covering the land. Everyone was shocked. Those who didn't know thought that some genius had appeared, but those who knew were deeply shocked by Yi Tianyun. He let them know what was called a misunderstanding. Such a powerful super genius was almost strangled in the cradle by the two elders. After the seventh star was lit, the eighth star quickly lit up. It can still continue? Many people almost swallowed their tongues in shock. It looked too terrifying. They thought that the seventh star was the limit. Who would have thought that there would be an eighth star? But could the eighth star succeed? The answer was quickly revealed. He had successfully lit up the eighth star without any effort. After the eighth star was lit, he continued to rush towards the last star. He was preparing to light up the eighth star. This was something that had only happened in the past several thousand years. No one knew how long ago that had happened. Everyone was dumbfounded. If this continued, his bloodline would be the closest to that of the King of the Heavens. Wang. The eighth star was lit up. Outside, countless rays of light shrouded it. It was a miracle. Everyone looked over. The experts of the other God Nation forces also sensed the situation. What's going on? Someone from the Fengtian God Nation actually lit up the eighth star? They were all stunned, and then killing intent flashed across their eyes. It was not a good sign for such a situation to occur. If this genius was allowed to grow, the other God Nation forces would be in danger. It was very likely that the Fengtian God Nation would return to the top. But the prerequisite was that this genius had to become a true expert. I don't know who it is, but before this person becomes stronger, we must kill him. All the God Nation lords' hearts sank. They had been eyeing this place for a long time. They originally thought that they would wait for the God Nation to decline a bit before ruthlessly conquering it. Who knew that a super genius would appear now? How would they deal with him then? Little did they know that the person being tested was Yi Tianyun, a genius who had already become an incomparably powerful expert. Chapter 731. When the eighth star was lit up, it was as if the entire world was lit up. Many people were shaken to the core. They felt as if a terrifying force was smashing into their hearts. Especially when the ninth star was about to be lit up. Their hearts were about to fly out of their throats. This was too terrifying. It was beyond their expectations. They had thought that it would stop at the seventh or eighth star. Now, it was already at the ninth star. It was going to be a terrifying achievement. Many people didn't know if anyone had ever lit up the ninth star before. It was too long ago for them to investigate. At least now, the ninth star was about to be lit up. It was the child of a husband and wife who had betrayed the Fengtian godly nation. All the disciples were dumbfounded. Who the F***ck said that the children they gave birth to were of poor bloodlines? If the great elder and third elder were still in this world, they would definitely be incomparably shocked. This far surpassed their imagination. Although they were no longer in this world, their disciples were. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help but feel regret. Great elder, your decision is wrong. Moreover, it's extremely wrong. They looked at the 8 stars in the sky. They could feel that a person's selfish desire could make a super genius disappear. The decline of a godly nation was mostly caused by their own people. They were the black sheep of the herd. This was the best proof. They only wanted to be promoted, but didn't care about the development of the godly nation. This kind of person was the most despicable. When the godly nation was conquered, it was too late to regret. Almost instantly, their impression of Yi Tianyun skyrocketed. Most of them were not hatred, but admiration and guilt. They were the first elder's disciples, but after knowing the truth, they were furious. Some didn't want to admit it, but now it seemed that they had no choice. Regardless of whether Yi Tianyun can light up the 9th star or not, at least he has become the person who has lit up the most stars in the world. Shi Shuiyun looked at Yi Tianyun's back and smiled. She was also surprised by this situation. However, compared to other things about Yi Tianyun, she didn't think it was a problem. Buzz. In the end, the 9th star was still lit up. Everyone was dumbfounded. Who would have thought that the 9th star could still be lit up? He was the only one in the world. He really did light up the 9th star. How terrifying. Doesn't that mean his bloodline is the closest to that of the King of the Heavens? This is too abnormal, simply inconceivable. That's right, it's simply unbelievable. Could it be that some kind of atavism really happened? Although it hasn't happened before, it doesn't mean it won't happen to him. All of them were incomparably shocked. The ninth star sphere had been completely lit up, and its light illuminated the earth, almost shocking the entire heaven realm. It could not be said that all the forces in the heaven realm knew about it, but at least most of the god kingdoms knew about the situation here. Everyone was paying attention to the situation here. Now that the ninth star had lit up, their hearts pounded wildly. Could it be that the second king of the heavens was about to descend? As long as there was enough time, becoming the second king of the heavens wouldn't be a difficult matter. Just when everyone thought that everything was about to end, boom! The 9 stars connected, forming a beam of light that shot up into the sky, scattering the clouds in the sky. Following that, an incomparably huge star appeared in everyone's line of sight. When everyone saw this incomparably huge star, they were all stunned. The 10th star. No one had ever seen such a scene before. They all thought that there were only 9 stars. But now, the 10th star had appeared, and it was even bigger than all the other stars combined. Now, the light shot up into the sky and fiercely collided with the 10th star. It began to light up bit by bit, but the speed was very slow. The 10th star? Light it up for me. Yi Tianyun's eyes flickered incessantly. He increased the strength of his hand, and the power of his bloodline began to surge. Dong. The bloodline steely blossomed with even more dazzling light, and the speed at which it was lighting up immediately increased. At this rate, the 10th star would definitely light up, and there would be no suspense at all. Finally, under this light, the 10th star was completely lit up. Following that, a beam of light enveloped Yi Tianyun's body. The next moment, Yi Tianyun actually disappeared. A group of dumbfounded disciples was left looking at the bloodline steely. Yi Tianyun's figure was nowhere to be seen, as if he had never been on the stele in the first place. After the light disappeared, the star in the sky was once again shrouded by the clouds, returning to its original appearance. He's gone. What's going on? He's gone. One by one, the disciples cried out in alarm. This was something they had never seen before. Whether it was being teleported away or the 10th star, this was the first time they had seen something like this. Not to mention them, even Suo Kaifeng and the rest were seeing something like this for the first time. Someone had disappeared after lighting up the 10th star. Where did he go? It seems like there's no need for me to bring him to the inheritance. I'm afraid the ancestor has already brought him to the true inheritance ground. Suo Kaifeng shook his head and turned to look at them coldly. Now you know what the problem is. We almost lost a super genius. No, it should be said that we've already lost half of one. If it weren't for the actions of those two before, this situation would not have happened. One by one, the elders and disciples lowered their heads in shame, not knowing what to say. They all understood why it was called lost. Because Yi Tianyun had not been raised here since he was young. In a situation where he was already very strong, it was impossible for him to take them as his master. This was like sending charcoal in snowy weather, better than adding flowers to brocade. At the same time, the powerhouses of the divine kingdoms outside were all dumbfounded. The 10th star, what's going on? This is the first time he's seen 10 stars, how did he do it? Quick, ask the people there to find out what's going on. Just who is it that can attract so many stars? Find out everything about that person. I want absolutely detailed information, don't miss a single word. Find out everything for me, no matter what the information is. This child absolutely cannot be allowed to live. If he continues to stay here, our future days will not be easy. The experts of all the forces were in chaos. They all sent people to inquire about the news or to see the situation. Just who was it that could do such a thing? Chapter 732. The people outside were trying to guess who it was and which prodigy had appeared. The people inside the teleportation room were wondering where Yi Tianyun was teleported to. No one knew where he would be teleported to because they had never experienced it before. They could only stare blankly at the sky, not knowing what was going on. Where is he going to be teleported to? Suo Kaifeng looked at the sky, his eyes flashing with curiosity. It was very likely that he would only be teleported out after he lit up the 10th star. According to the records, an ancestor had lit up the 9th star before, but he was not teleported out. Now that Yi Tianyun had been teleported out, it meant that he had lit up the 10th star. Our son actually lit up the 10th star. This is unbelievable. Yi Xingchen hugged Jiao Linghe tightly. He was extremely emotional. Yes, this is our son, the one and only. Tears gushed out of her eyes. When the two of them got together, she felt extremely guilty, especially when Yi Xingchen chose to give up the Fengtian Divine Kingdom to be with her. Apart from feeling touched, she also felt extremely guilty. If not for her, why would Yi Xingchen have left the Fengtian Divine Kingdom? This was a divine kingdom, not an ordinary sect. The amount of resources provided by such a huge sect was terrifying. It could only be described as terrifying. Especially when Yi Xingchen had lit up 5 stars, he had a very high chance of inheriting the position of clan leader in the future. Just this one deal alone would have been worth a lot of resources. Who would have thought that Yi Xingchen would give up so many resources to choose her? She was very touched, but also very guilty. After all, she had nothing with her, and there was no good place to cultivate. Especially when Yi Tianyun did not inherit any bloodline, she felt even more sorry for Yi Xingchen. She felt that she had ruined Yi Xingchen's future. Now it seemed that she had overthought things. Everything was the fault of the 2 elders. It was not their fault. How could things have turned out like this? None of this could have happened. At least it did not prove that Yi Xingchen had chosen the wrong person, but the Fengtian Divine Kingdom. At the same time, after Yi Tianyun was teleported away, he entered a special space in the blink of an eye. He had just teleported here, and what greeted his eyes was a vast space that stretched as far as the eye could see. There was nothing special about it, just an endless plain. When he raised his head slightly to look at the sky, he discovered that there were 9 continents floating in the air around him. When he looked back, he found that there was a cliff behind him. When he walked over, he could clearly see the palace below. This is the space of 10 stars. Yi Tianyun wasn't too surprised. When the 10th star appeared, the light from the bloodline stele had teleported him here. Without a doubt, he had been teleported to the 10th star. When he saw the palace below, he knew that he had been teleported up. The palaces below were the 5 divine mountains of the Fengtian Divine Kingdom. Due to the fact that flying was prohibited in this area, there was no way for them to come up to this star. Only through the teleportation array could one enter this area. How are these stars? They are completely 10 treasures. Yi Tianyun's heart shook violently. These so-called 10 stars were not stars, but 5 continents floating here. Looking at them from above, he thought they were stars when he saw the twinkling light. Who knew that they were not stars at all, but 10 divine artifacts. 9 of them were low-grade divine artifacts, and 1 of them was a mid-grade divine artifact. These formed the power of the 10 stars. They were all interconnected, transmitting power to each other, and continuously absorbing spiritual power from the surroundings to replenish the consumption here. There were many creator-level divine runes engraved on them. He could tell at a glance that this was definitely the work of the heaven-creating divine king. It was not a problem for the heaven-creating divine king to help the king of the heavens engrave the divine runes. It was just that the king of the heavens loved his descendants too much. He had left 10 divine artifacts here. As long as one obtained the inheritance, one could activate the power of these 10 divine artifacts according to the power of one's bloodline. It was no wonder that when the Great Elder broke out, the power of the divine artifacts increased greatly and became very terrifying. According to how many stars one could light up, how many divine artifacts could be activated. This meant that when the Great Elder broke out, he activated 5 divine artifacts to attack. Coupled with the huge divine rune array here, how could the power be weak? It had to be said that the King of the Heavens really put in a lot of effort. In order to let his descendants develop well, he made 10 divine artifacts and threw them here to cover the heaven realm. It seems that I can only use them in the heaven realm. Yi Tianyun looked at the 10 divine artifacts that covered the heaven realm. The mortal world and the underworld were not in the same area. How could he use them? Now that he had 10 divine artifacts, if he activated them, the power would be even more terrifying. Then, he walked over. He had only taken a few steps when a spirit flew out from the middle. It looked at him and said respectfully, "Welcome, new master." "Huh. I became your master after activating the 10th star." He looked at the weapon spirit in front of him. As a mid-grade divine artifact, it was not surprising that it could become a weapon spirit. "Yes, the previous master said that as long as you can activate the 10th star, you will become my new master." This weapon spirit looked like a young man. He came to Yi Tianyun's side and was very respectful. Did the other divine artifacts transform into weapon spirits? Yi Tianyun asked. "Actually, the other divine artifacts are all my original bodies. I have a total of 10. Originally, the old master wanted to make a high-grade divine artifact, but who knew that he would fail, so he remade it and created me." The weapon spirit answered honestly. Yi Tianyun's heart shook. There was such a thing. If he thought about it carefully, it was possible. If he failed, it would not be completely useless. With a little modification, it could still become a decent divine artifact. But if he wanted to make it into a high-grade divine artifact, that was not very possible. From this, he could tell that the King of the Heavens was also an artificer, and a very strong one at that. He could even make divine artifacts. That was really shocking. The 10 divine artifacts were actually a whole. This was the first time he had seen this. It made him sigh that the King of the Heavens was really strong. Other than this, did my ancestor say anything else? Yi Tianyun was a descendant of the King of the Heavens, otherwise he would not be able to come up. Even if he only had a trace of the bloodline, he could still come up. If not, he would not be able to come up. Of course, from the looks of it, his bloodline could not be weak. "Yes, other than telling me to become the next master, I also told you to make good use of me and protect the entire heaven realm," the weapon spirit answered honestly. Chapter 733. Protect the heaven realm? Yi Tianyun was very puzzled. It should be protecting the Fengtian divine kingdom. Why would it protect the heaven realm? Doesn't it mean that it needs to protect the other divine kingdoms at the same time? "You mean to resist the invasion of the demons?" Yi Tianyun immediately thought of this matter and asked subconsciously. "It seems that Master knows about the situation of the demons. This saves me a lot of explaining." The artifact spirit said with a smile. "The old master set this up before, to a large extent, to protect the heaven realm from the invasion of the demons. At the critical moment, it can resist the attack of the demons. If there is no master, I will automatically resist the invasion of the demons. Now that there is a new master, you need to learn how to control the divine artifact here to protect the entire heaven realm from the invasion." Yi Tianyun nodded and asked doubtfully, "Can I use it for other things?" "Yes, but the main purpose is to resist the demons. If the demons don't attack, you can use it at will," the artifact spirit explained. "That's good." Yi Tianyun's eyes flickered. If it can only be used to resist the demons, then it doesn't seem to have much meaning at the moment. So, there are similar protective treasures in the mortal world and the underworld. He wanted to know the situation of the mortal world and the underworld so that he can subdue them and use them for his own purposes. Yes. The Heaven Ascension altar in the mortal world is the best treasure to resist the demons. Not only the mortal world, but the underworld and the heaven realm also have Heaven Ascension altar. The artifact spirit will not lie. Yi Tianyun is its master, so it will answer like this. Heaven Ascension altar? Yi Tianyun was stunned and asked doubtfully, "There is a Heaven Ascension altar in the mortal world, how come I don't know about it?" Such a huge altar, if he knew about it, he would definitely know about it. Many cultivators will gather there. It should be under the water of the Devil Cloud Island. There was a war there before, causing a strange phenomenon. The artifact spirit said, "In the past, I fought with the old master to expel the demons. The power of the 3 Heaven Ascension altars is amazing. The heaven-creating divine king is indeed the strongest divine king and the strongest leader." The artifact spirit showed an expression of worship. This was the biggest difference between it and the phantom. Phantom spirits could only speak according to the master's settings. Artifact spirits had intelligence, so they were more lively. It turns out to be in the area of the Devil Cloud Island. No wonder I didn't sense anything. Yi Tianyun nodded. The heaven-creating divine king really put in a lot of effort. He had 3 altars, and it seemed that he could fly back and forth. It was just that when he was teleporting, he couldn't sense the Heaven Ascension Temple in the mortal world. Clearly, something had gone wrong. Otherwise, if they could travel back and forth, there would be no need for teleportation channels. Initially, he thought that since the underworld and heaven realm had ascension temples, why didn't the mortal realm have them? After all, the mortal realm was one of the main battlefields, so it was normal for it to be affected. Clearly, there was more than one demon. It was just that the sealed demon was the most powerful one. Since he couldn't kill it, he could only seal it. Are there any other divine artifacts? Yi Tianyun continued to ask. Yes, there is a heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet in the mortal realm that suppresses the most powerful demon. Its cultivation is roughly at the 8th level of the God King stage, but I don't know what's the situation now. 8th level of the God King stage, Yi Tianyun's heart sank. This was really a terrifying combat power. No wonder he felt so oppressed when he released a little bit of his aura. This cultivation was too terrifying. If he broke the seal, he might even reach the peak of the God King stage. With his current cultivation, he could easily be slapped to death. There was no way he could resist the suppression of a God King stage cultivator. Fortunately, they still had 100 years. If they rushed out immediately, they would definitely die. Anything else? Tell me all of them. Yi Tianyun said. That's about all the mortal realms. The heaven realm only has me and the heaven ascending divine altar. As for the underworld, it's mostly under the heavenly underworld sacred land. I don't know if the descendants of the ancient underworld God King are still guarding there, the artifact spirit said truthfully. The heavenly netherworld sacred land? I roughly understand. Yi Tianyun nodded. He roughly understood. The next step was to find the descendants of the ancient underworld God King. He had to inform them about the demonic demons breaking the seal so that they could work together to suppress them. The heaven-sealing divine kingdom had already done the work. Now, only the underworld was left. He couldn't hope to contact all the divine kingdoms to suppress them. He had to contact the key divine kingdoms first. When the time came, he would announce it to the outside world. As for whether they believed it or not, it had nothing to do with them. When the war started, there were bound to be casualties. This was inevitable. Apart from that, is there anything else I can do here? Yi Tianyun asked. Nothing else. I just want to tell you this. The artifact spirit flipped his hand and a jade pendant fell into Yi Tianyun's hand. Finally, take this jade pendant and repair the inheritance stele. Also, obtain the most complete inheritance. The old master left his divine sense in the inheritance stele, waiting for the new master. Yi Tianyun took the jade pendant and nodded. If he could repair the inheritance stele, it meant that he could gain more prestige. Previously, the 6th elder had rushed over to beg Yi Tianyun not to obtain the inheritance mainly because the inheritance stele was about to break. That was why he didn't let him go. If there were no problems, the 6th elder definitely wouldn't stop him. If I want to come here, I have to go through that stele? Yi Tianyun asked again. No, you become the master of this place. You can fly up at will. You won't be suppressed. You don't need to go through that place, the artifact spirit said. You mean I won't be suppressed? Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. That way, most of the suppression in the area wouldn't affect him. Yes, the artifact spirit said. Yi Tianyun nodded. Then he turned and flew down. As expected, he wouldn't be suppressed at all. He could fly as he pleased. From today onwards, this was his territory. He could control the divine artifact to suppress everyone. Who in the entire heaven realm would dare to be his enemy? Everyone was still standing in front of the bloodline stele in a daze. They were all guessing where Yi Tianyun had gone. However, not long after, they saw a figure flying down from the sky. Look, a figure is descending. At this time, someone noticed the situation in the sky. Everyone raised their heads and looked up. They really saw a figure descending. After a while, Yi Tianyun steadily landed on the ground. A group of people looked at him dumbfounded. They didn't know what to say. Especially those who originally opposed Yi Tianyun. Now, their hearts were incomparably conflicted. Most of them had a huge impact. Those who resisted previously had now created a miracle of activating 10 stars. Chapter 734. Looking at the many disciples, Yi Tianyun felt a sense of relief. This was the feeling he wanted. Although he didn't mind that the Fengtian kingdom wasn't too friendly to him, it would be best if they could be friendly to him. No one liked a faction that was related to him or had a bad relationship with him. His grandfather and father were both here. He couldn't just leave them behind, let alone ignore them. You're back. What's going on up there? Suo Kaifeng and the rest leaned over excitedly. They had never been up there before. Therefore, when they saw Yi Tianyun return, they were extremely excited. We'll talk about this later. Let's go to the legacy stone tablet first. Yi Tianyun smiled. All right. Suo Kaifeng and the rest nodded. They knew that this was an important matter and it wasn't appropriate to talk about it here. When the rest of the disciples saw this, they revealed disappointed looks. They thought that they would be able to hear some news. Who knew that Lin Fan wouldn't say anything? They could only follow and see what was going on. Under Suo Kaifeng's lead, they arrived in front of the legacy stone tablet. The first thing they saw was the gigantic legacy stone tablet. This stone tablet was 100 zhong tall and stood in front of them like a city wall. As they approached, they could feel a majestic aura surging towards them. It made them want to prostrate themselves in worship. The stone tablet was inscribed with many divine inscriptions. If one looked closely, they wouldn't be able to see the content of the inscriptions. There were many cracks on the huge stone tablet. It looked like a broken stone tablet. Who knew how many years it had been through for this to happen? The damage to this legacy stele is quite serious. Yi Tianyun sized up the legacy stone tablet. This was definitely not a situation that would only happen when someone attacked it. It was because the spiritual energy within it had dried up, causing it to gradually break down. If it continued to be passed down, it would be completely destroyed. If they wanted to obtain the legacy, they would have to listen to the clan leader or elders. Although they could still obtain the legacy, it would not be as good as obtaining the content through the legacy stone tablet. Through the content of the legacy stone tablet, they would be able to comprehend it more thoroughly. It was the same martial art, but if it was obtained through inheritance, the cultivation speed would be at least several times faster than if it was taught orally. That's right. Based on the current situation, we can only last for less than 10 inheritances. Suo Kaifeng sighed. This was related to their previous abuse of power. As long as they were talented, they would be allowed to comprehend the inheritance stone tablet. Over time, it became like this. By the time they reacted, it was already too late. There were less than 10 chances left. At this time, many of the people behind him who did not support Yi Tianyun to obtain the legacy obediently shut their mouths. Even if there was only one chance, they would not object. The fact that Yi Tianyun could light up 10 stars meant that he could become the king of the heavens in the future. They really wanted someone to lead the Fengtian divine kingdom to glory, but unfortunately, Yi Tianyun would not stay. It was just that he didn't say it now. If he said it, he would only say it to Suo Kaifeng and the others. He wouldn't specifically announce it. Only 10 times? Yi Tianyun smiled and took out the jade pendant and threw it lightly. The jade pendant floated in the air and quickly turned into a green light and merged with the inheritance stone tablet. Soon, the whole inheritance stone tablet began to repair itself. The crowd was dumbfounded. The inheritance stone tablet that seemed so difficult to repair was now being repaired. What's going on? It's being repaired. Everyone's eyes widened. Be it Suo Kaifeng or Yi Yuanlong, they were all astonished. After a short while, the inheritance stone tablet was completely repaired. It looked no different from a brand new one. The inheritance stone tablet has been repaired. Make good use of it. Don't overdo it. Otherwise, it will revert to its previous state. Yi Tianyun warned. It seemed like the King of the Heavens had predicted that the inheritance stone tablet would collapse. That was why he had left it here. Now that it was repaired, they would be able to train more disciples in the future. Thank you so much for your help. If it weren't for you, this inheritance stone tablet would not have lasted for long. Suo Kai-feng was so emotional that he almost fell to his knees. This had always been a problem in their hearts. Now that it had been repaired, how could they not be excited? Thank you so much, second elder. We are very sorry for our rudeness earlier. Please forgive us. One by one, the disciples fell to their knees. Not only had the young man awakened 10 stars, but he had also helped to repair the inheritance stone tablet. Their hearts were filled with admiration. Instantly, their favorability points skyrocketed once again, reaching over 150. With the existence of these people, Yi Tianyun's reputation in the Fengtian kingdom would not be bad. Get up, I won't take such a small matter to heart. Yi Tianyun waved his hand. If the king of the heavens had pursued this matter, they would have been dead by now. Why would they still be kneeling here? Thank you, second elder. They stood up excitedly. They heaved a sigh of relief after receiving the second elder's forgiveness. When Yi Yuanlong and the others saw this, they nodded their heads in agreement. They were surprised that such a situation had occurred. They had initially thought that Yi Tianyun would need to do something to establish his prestige after becoming the second elder. But from the looks of it now, Yi Tianyun had already established his prestige without needing to do anything at all. It's about time. I'll go in and obtain the inheritance first. There aren't any inheritances up there. Yi Tianyun placed his hand on the inheritance stone tablet. In the next instant, a golden light enveloped him and wrapped him up, disappearing into the inheritance stone tablet. We can enter the inheritance stone tablet as well? They were also shocked. Under normal circumstances, they had never entered the inheritance stone tablet before. They would stick their arms on the inheritance stone tablet and continuously transmit the inheritances into the inheritance stone tablet to cultivate. As for entering the inheritance stone tablet like Yi Tianyun, they had never done it before. They exchanged glances, not knowing what to say. Ever since Yi Tianyun had arrived, he had done some unbelievable things. This was something that had never happened before. While the crowd was discussing outside, Yi Tianyun had just entered the inheritance stone tablet when he heard a deep voice in his ears. Someone has finally come in. At this moment, a benevolent-looking middle-aged man walked out. As soon as he walked out, the empty space around Yi Tianyun immediately turned into a spacious room. At the same time, a tea table appeared in front of him. The middle-aged man walked over with a smile and sat down slowly. He gestured for Yi Tianyun to sit down. Ancestor. Chapter 735. The King of the Heavens motioned for Yi Tianyun to sit down and looked at him with a smile. After a while, the King of the Heavens sighed. Amazing cultivation, reaching the first layer of the Saint King stage at such a young age. How did you do it? If I was the same age as you, I would have reached the Spirit Core stage at most, but you are already at the first layer of the Saint King stage. It's really monstrous. Many powerhouses were not monstrous geniuses when they were young. Most of them had decent cultivation, but they were definitely not outstanding. They could break through to the God King stage mainly because their Tao heart was strong enough. Thank you for your praise, Ancestor. This junior was just lucky. Yi Tianyun smiled slightly and said modestly, luck is also a kind of strength. No one can achieve success easily. If you don't work hard and have the courage to take the first step, you won't be able to achieve such success. The King of the Heavens smiled. Yi Tianyun did rely on his own strength to climb up step by step. It was undeniable that he relied on the system, but if he didn't have the courage, it would be impossible to obtain such strength. It wasn't something that could be achieved by killing people casually. After all, he had experienced many dangerous situations. If it was someone else who obtained the system, if they didn't grasp it well, they would probably die very miserably. Yi Tianyun smiled slightly and didn't say anything. Ancestor, you asked me to come in. I'm afraid you have something to tell me, right? Yi Tianyun roughly guessed what it was. Yes, I left a trace of my divine sense here to tell me what I'm worried about. If you can see me, it means that the war hasn't started yet, otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to see me. The King of the Heavens said solemnly. War? Are you talking about the demons? Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes and said. He thought about it for a while, But there really was no other situation besides the demons. It seems that you have some understanding. Yes, it's the demons. The king of the heavens narrowed his eyes as he recalled, a long time ago, a large number of demons suddenly appeared. They looked horrifying, but no one knew what race they were. They came with a menacing aura. We didn't even have time to communicate before it devoured our cultivators crazily. No matter how we communicated, it was useless. There was only one word: devour. He waved his hand lightly and a shadow appeared in the air. When Yi Tianyun looked up, his face immediately darkened. Evil spirit race. What appeared in front of him was the appearance of the evil spirit race, with 8 thick arms waving in the air. His face was repulsive, like a glaring Vajra. He held 8 weapons tightly in his hands and waved them in the air. Evil spirit race, you know about this thing? The king of the heavens was surprised. If I take a closer look, there are still some differences. However, this appearance and this ability do resemble the species I dealt with previously, said Yi Tianyun in a deep voice. It's very likely that fiendish demons have secretly taken root in the 3 realms. Although the evil spirit race was a little different from the current image, the difference was not very big. It could only be said that after reproducing, there were all sorts of differences. The quality of a race did not depend on its appearance, but the evil spirit race was indeed terrifyingly savage. As long as they were not of the same race, they would crazily devour them. They've taken root in the 3 realms, this. The king of the heavens' face darkened. At that time, the 3 of us, the god kings, crazily searched every corner. We should have searched everywhere, but we couldn't find any traces of them. Only after confirming that they were completely destroyed would we be able to relax. Ancestor, I'm afraid you won't be able to find one thing. Yi Tianyun pointed to his stomach. You mean, they already have descendants with the races here? The king of the heavens was shocked. That's right, some of them look like humans on the outside, but when they suddenly burst out, it was the power of the evil spirit race. At the same time, it is very likely that they have reproduced with other races. There are still quite a few of them, but not many of them. Yi Tianyun's heart sank, and when he thought about it carefully, his back broke out in cold sweat. No wonder the evil spirit race was constantly searching for treasures. It was not because they were greedy for the treasures, but because they wanted to release their ancestors. As long as their ancestors were released, the 3 realms would return to darkness. I never thought that there would be such a move. We really didn't investigate everyone carefully. There are too many races. Especially the one in the stomach, we didn't expect it. The king of the heavens shook his head and revealed a bitter smile. I thought that the demons might attack again, but it seems like they have already taken root. I wonder what ancestors' real thoughts are? Yi Tianyun asked. I just want you to obtain all the inheritances, stabilize the many divine inscriptions, and check if the demons will attack. The king of the heavens shook his head, who knew that they had already taken root here. I really didn't expect that, however, their forces are not strong. One of them was uprooted by me. I don't know if there are any other evil spirit race. Yi Tianyun thought for a moment, then asked doubtfully, all along, they said that the ancestors had left. Where did you go? We left the 3 realms to find a way to break through to a stronger cultivation level, or to find a better place to cultivate. The king of the heavens said in a deep voice, the resources here are completely unable to help us break through further, to the point that we could not even kill one of the demons that attacked us. We could only choose to leave this place and wait outside to break through before coming back to kill it. But it's been a long time, and I haven't seen you guys return. Yi Tianyun frowned. This was already a very long time ago. According to what others said, it had been thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years. I'm not too sure about this. I'm just a trace of divine will. I can have complete memories before I left. As time passes, it will gradually disappear, or the inheritance stone tablet will be destroyed. The king of the heavens shook his head and said, we don't know what's going on outside, we never went out, we might have died outside. The king of the heavens smiled, he looked very carefree. As a trace of divine will, the life and death of his main body had nothing to do with him, not even the slightest bit. Outside the 3 realms, there are other worlds. Yi Tianyun's eyes flickered. This was not surprising. If there were no other worlds, there would not be any demons attacking. Of course, when your cultivation is too low, you can't go out at all, you will be blocked by the power outside. Only when you break through to the God King level can you leave this place. The King of the Heavens said in a deep voice, so in the end, we chose to leave this place, find a better place to break through, then come back here to kill demons. Yi Tianyun nodded, suddenly had a new understanding. There are other worlds outside the three realms. Seems like they did not die, they just left this place to find a breakthrough point. Chapter 736. Since you went out, you must have made some preparations, right? Yi Tianyun changed the topic again. The King of the Heavens must have asked him to come in just to talk about this matter. Yes, if we didn't come back and the demonic beasts were about to break the seal, we could only hand over the remaining task of suppressing the demonic beasts to you. The King of the Heavens said in a deep voice. The three realms contain the power of the three of us. As long as you activate this power, you can once again suppress the demonic beast. In the heavenly realm, it's the starring star, the divine artifact in the sky, which stores my power. The King of the Heavens said. As long as you completely erupt, you can erupt a very strong power, at least enough to fight against the demonic beasts. Of course, I can't speculate the current situation of the demonic beasts. Once you erupt, my divine sense will rush up and fuse with the divine artifact to release the strongest power. At that time, I'm afraid that the starring star will be destroyed, right? Yi Tianyun's heart sank. Yes, if you want to erupt the strongest effect, you have to do this. The King of the Heavens said in a deep voice. Yi Tianyun nodded. Anything that can erupt the strongest power must pay a price. This is like burning the blood essence. The power is very strong, but the price is also not small. What about the other preparations? Yi Tianyun asked. The other thing is to ascend the heaven altar. If you can master it well, and if you have an inheritor, talk to him about this matter. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. If you don't pay the price, when the time comes, it will be over. The King of the Heavens said. It doesn't matter, I have already become the inheritor of the heaven-creating divine king. Yi Tianyun said truthfully. Sure enough. The King of the Heavens shook his head and sighed. At first, I thought that the forces of the heaven-creating divine king would soon decline, mainly because he didn't give us as many resources as we do. He let them develop on their own, but in the end, they still disappeared. When he found out that Yi Tianyun was the inheritor, not only was he not happy, he even felt that it was a pity. Since you have the heaven-ascending divine altar, then it's even easier. Now, you control two places. The other place is the power left behind by the ancient underworld god king. It is under the heavenly underworld sacred ground, the King of the Heavens continued. The immortal treasure spirit had explained all of this, but the King of the Heavens did not know. From the start, they had determined that whoever came in would not know about the demons. He had been sealed all this time, so how could he possibly know? The artifact spirit told me about it before. Yi Tianyun said, in that case, I also have to find an inheritor, or grasp it myself. That's right, that's pretty much it. All three of them are the strongest means, and we can't do without one. The King of the Heavens said sternly, only when all three of them explode together, and instantly suppress any corner of the three realms, no matter where the demon escapes, or where it is, we have to draw it out at the same time. We will definitely be able to suppress it and reseal it for 10,000 years. So powerful. Yi Tianyun was shocked. It could be sealed for 10,000 years like this. Last time I went to sense it, it was very powerful. When it comes out, it might have reached the peak of the God King level. Even if it didn't reach that level, it would be close. As long as it is still at the God King level, we can suppress it. The King of the Heavens' eyes were cold, and he said with an imposing manner, when we suppressed it, our cultivation was weaker than it, but we still suppressed it. So before we left, we once again arranged everything. Once the seal is broken, we can immediately use the seal to suppress it again. After hearing this, Yi Tianyun was in awe. He did not expect them to make so many preparations before leaving. It was really admirable. If it were some other strong cultivators, they would not care about anything after leaving. No matter how they died, it would not affect them. But they did not do that. Instead, They made many preparations to suppress the demon again. This alone was enough to prove how strong they were. They could not kill it, but suppressing it was not a problem. Sometimes, trapping it was much easier than killing it. Ancestors, it's been hard on you. Most people don't know what you've done. Yi Tianyun shook his head. Many people did not know about this. At most, only a small portion of people knew. Whether we know or not, it has nothing to do with us. This bit of reputation is not that important to us. The King of the Heavens said calmly, compared to this, we look forward to a new world, to greater power. Otherwise, if a stronger demon barges in, all reputation will be for naught. To put it bluntly, fists were the hard truth. Everything else was bullsh*t. As for the rest, I still have some content to tell you. It's all in the form of memories. The King of the Heavens stretched out his hand and a group of memories flowed into his mind. Yi Tianyun did not resist and absorbed the memories. He generally knew more detailed content, far more detailed than the memories given by the heavenly rock suppression ancient tablet. In addition, all the inheritance of the King of the Heavens was given to him. Young man, I'll leave the rest to you. I know the process is very hard, but if you want to live, this is the only way. The King of the Heavens smiled faintly. Perhaps many people will laugh at you or ignore you in the process, but in order to protect your loved ones, what others think has nothing to do with you. Yi Tianyun nodded heavily. They did this to protect their loved ones, not the three realms. The life and death of many cultivators had nothing to do with them. Moreover, the others were even more indifferent. When demons came, they all hid. Such people deserved to die, but in order to protect their loved ones, they could only choose to fight with their lives. I will. Yi Tianyun's eyes flickered. He did not want to simply suppress the demon. He wanted to kill it completely. Only then would he be able to solve the problem in his heart. Very good. You can use these memories to search for more information. Many of them will be of help to you, allowing you to break through faster. The heaven-sealing God King waved his hand and disappeared from the area. Very good. At the same time, Yi Tianyun was ejected from the inheritance tablet and appeared at the outermost area. Many cultivators outside looked at him in shock. It was not that his entry was too shocking, but that he had only been in there for a very short time. The inheritance is finished. Suo Kaifeng said in surprise. Yes, it's about time for me to leave. Yi Tianyun dropped a bomb as soon as he came out. This time, everyone's expression changed. Among them, the elders and disciples all knelt down. Second elder, you must not leave. We know that we have made a lot of mistakes, but we hope that you can forgive us and not leave the Fengtian Divine Kingdom. Chapter 737. When Yi Tianyun wanted to leave, they all knelt down and begged him not to leave. They had witnessed Yi Tianyun's powerful talent and ability, and he could even repair the inheritance stone tablet. Their admiration for him was like a torrential river. They felt that it was a good choice to let Yi Tianyun lead them. In this world, strength was always respected. Especially when Yi Tianyun was one of them, there was no need to reject him. After witnessing it, they came to their senses and knew who was right and who was wrong. Their impression of Yi Tianyun increased exponentially. Yes, they all hope that you can stay. Suo Kaifeng's eyes flickered. In his heart, he definitely hoped that Yi Tianyun could stay. He had seen Yi Tianyun's strength and knew that Yi Tianyun could stand alone and withstand a lot of pressure. If Yi Tianyun left, he wouldn't be able to stay here all the time. He didn't ask Yi Tianyun to expand his territory. At the very least, he had to stay here and not force his way in even if a strong enemy came to invade. Just when Yi Yuanlong wanted to say something, Jiao Linghe shook her head and signaled him not to say anything. Without a doubt, Yi Yuanlong would definitely persuade Yi Tianyun to stay. It wasn't easy for them to reunite with their family. It would be a pity if they left just like that. However, Jiao Linghe knew that Yi Tianyun had his own things to do. His child had grown up and he couldn't always stay by her side. Being able to reunite with his family was already something to be happy about. Shi Shuiyun stood at the side and didn't say a word. She maintained a smile on her face. She knew what Yi Tianyun would choose. He knew whether to stay or leave. Thank you all for asking me to stay, but I still have many things to do. Not only do I have to manage my faction, but more importantly, there is a crisis coming. I have to stand up and handle some things. Yi Tianyun resolutely refused, causing everyone's eyes to darken. It seemed that they had no way of persuading Yi Tianyun to stay, and they were filled with regret. They always felt that they were the ones who caused this, and all of them mocked Yi Tianyun for not welcoming him. There was no point in regretting now. But don't worry, I'll be back. If there's any danger here, I'll come back immediately to help. Yi Tianyun was right. The main reason was because his parents were here, and he respected the King of the Heavens even more. Most of the people's lives had nothing to do with him, but his family was here, and that alone was enough. Everyone nodded. They could only nod in agreement. Other than that, there was nothing else they could do to persuade him. They could hear the determination in Yi Tianyun's voice, so they could only give up. Immediately, Suo Kaifeng brought Yi Tianyun and the others to the main hall. The other disciples could only go back, but they would definitely spread the news. At that time, Yi Tianyun's reputation would definitely improve greatly. After they entered the main hall, Yi Tianyun roughly explained the situation, which deeply shocked them. They didn't expect that the 10 stars in the sky were actually 10 divine weapons. Of course, this wasn't a secret. Anyway, 10 divine weapons, no one could take them away, including him. They were fixed there, and unless their cultivation was very strong, they really couldn't take them away. So that's how it is. I thought it was really the power of the stars, so it's the divine weapons. Only then did everyone understand. The flashing light in the sky, everyone thought it was the power of the stars. Now it seemed that it was the power of the divine weapons. If these divine weapons were taken away, then they really wouldn't be able to borrow the power of this place. Yes, the situation isn't that optimistic now. I have to go check on the other divine weapons. Otherwise, when the demons come out, we won't have the power to suppress them. Yi Tianyun said. Everyone nodded, then shook their heads. They didn't expect such a heavy responsibility to be shouldered by a young man. On the other hand, they couldn't do it at all. Child, it's been hard on you, that was all they could say. Among them, Jiao Linghe revealed a worried look. If you can't take it, come to Mother and rest. Mother doesn't ask for you to protect the 3 realms, I just hope that you can be safe. Jiao Linghe walked over and grabbed Yi Tianyun's hand. Her eyes were red. She knew what kind of terrifying power Yi Tianyun was facing, but he had to bear such pressure at such a young age. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. Protecting the 3 realms has never been my goal. I only want to protect you, and more importantly, I want to protect the people I love. Yi Tianyun looked at Shi Xueyun and felt his heart warm. To put it more selfishly, most of the lives and deaths had nothing to do with him. He wasn't a savior. He was just saving others while saving his loved ones. Sigh, as a father, I can't help much. Yi Xingchen and the others were very frustrated. Elders should bear more responsibility, but they realized that they didn't even have the right. The difference in power was too great. They couldn't help at all. If you can stabilize the Fengtian Divine Kingdom and gather more power, that would be the best help. Yi Tianyun said solemnly. If the demons come, I can't take care of them all by myself. From the memories he obtained from the King of the Heavens, he knew that there would be many demons attacking, and there would be quite a number of them. Moreover, there were some who had taken root here. He didn't know if there were still any. Trouble from within and without was the most terrifying situation. No problem, we will take care of that. If those demons come, we will definitely do our best to deal with them. They nodded. Putting aside everything else, they had gained a lot of experience from the bloody battles. It's about time. I should return to the mortal world. Yi Tianyun nodded. He had stayed here long enough. It was time to return to the mortal world. Just as they were about to leave, someone suddenly rushed in from outside. Clan leader. The guard was sweating profusely, his face full of fear. Didn't we agree not to come in if there's nothing important? What's going on? Suo Kaifeng frowned. They were still in the middle of a discussion when someone suddenly barged in. They must be unhappy. The army is attacking. It seems that 7 or 8 experts from the god nations have gathered and are ready to attack us. The guard said anxiously. They are almost at the door. They are ready to fight. What? Their faces changed. They didn't expect that at this time, so many god nations would suddenly attack. It was really shocking. Why would they suddenly attack so wantonly? Are they crazy? Suo Kaifeng said. I think it's because of the 10 stars. It made them think that a peerless genius has appeared. If we continue to develop, not to mention getting weaker, we will only get stronger. They have been eyeing our inheritance for a long time. How can they let it go? Yi Yuanlong said. After Yi Tianyun heard this, he didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed. A bunch of vermin. It seems like they have forgotten who protected the heaven realm in the past. Since that's the case, I will suppress them and awaken their old ancestors' memory. I will know which faction the king of the heaven realm belongs to. His eyes flickered. He definitely wouldn't show mercy to these people. Since they sent themselves to him, he wouldn't hesitate to accept them. This was a huge pile of experience. The opportunity to level up had come again. And it was a crazy leveling up. Chapter 738. Yi Tianyun hates maggots the most in his life. They do nothing but swarm over when they see something good. He doesn't believe that none of the old ancestors in the god nations know about the demon invasion. The demon invasion was the darkness of the 3 realms. Everyone knew about it and fought back. Among them, the king of the heavens was the main force in the heaven realm. He led many experts to fight back the demon invasion. At that time, there must have been a lot of old ancestors who survived. They were either alive or dead now. But even if they are dead, there should be some records, right? Now that many god nations have surrounded them, there are some god nations that are at the top. Those that can be at the top are definitely not weak. They must have powerful old ancestors or have the inheritance of old ancestors. For these ancestors to be able to survive, it was largely due to the protection of the 3 great divine kings that they were able to survive. One must know that when the demon invasion, most of the powers in the 3 realms were overthrown. Those that survived were the elites of the elites. It is not surprising that they were able to establish a huge god nation. Now the power they established is used to fight against Fengtian god nation. It is really ironic. This is like a hero who saved a group of people. After a few years, the hero died. The rest of the people started to attack the descendants of the hero. They want to take all the good things from the descendants of the hero. These people deserve to die 10,000 times, they deserve to be despised. Now there are 7 or 8 god nations that are like this. They actually launched a big attack, causing the people of Fengtian god nation to be extremely angry. Even Yi Tianyun is angry. The life and death of the disciples here has nothing to do with him. But he made so many contributions to King of the Heavens, but in the end, others repaid his kindness with enmity. Just thinking about it makes him angry. Yi Tianyun, Suo Kaifeng and the others flew away. But only a few people can fly. Only elder-level existences can fly here. They can only fly here because they have flight tokens. But these flight tokens are too rare. There are not more than 10 of them. It is very difficult to make them. Yi Tianyun brought Shishueyun and flew out. When Suo Kaifeng and the others saw this, they were shocked. Yi Tianyun didn't have a flight pass, so how could he fly? But then again, it made sense. Yi Tianyun had received the legacy of the King of the Heavens. It was normal for him to be able to fly here. When he arrived outside the city wall, he saw a large group of experts with terrifying cultivations walking towards him on foot. Their cultivations were very strong, but they were still suppressed here, unable to fly. This was the terror of the King of the Heavens. Anyone below the God King realm was nothing but an ant. Under the powerful formation, no one could escape from this terrifying suppression. Unless his cultivation base broke through to the God King stage, even if he was at the Saint King stage, he would still be suppressed. However, for very powerful Saint Kings, the suppressive effect would be weakened. Although they would not be able to fly as they wished, it would not be a problem for them to fly for a short distance. It seems that there are a lot of divine nations who are interested in the Fengtian divine nation. So many experts have been dispatched. Yi Tianyun glanced at the front. There were more than a dozen Saint King stage experts and a lot of Spirit King stage experts. Basically, Every divine nation had dispatched a considerable amount of forces. Not to mention that they didn't bring all of their forces, but at least more than half of them. Although they came here as an alliance, they couldn't take it lightly. They couldn't bring too many weak people. If the divine nations counterattacked, they would be finished. No matter how many people come, it's still experience. Yi Tianyun sneered. In this situation, the more the better. He didn't mind killing some scums. Back in the Fengtian Divine Kingdom, he had been suppressing himself. He really wanted to get rid of the scum of the Fengtian Divine Kingdom in one go. This was especially so when he faced those two elders. He was too lazy to explain himself, and he just wanted to slap them to death. However, this place was his territory, and he wasn't a patriarch, so he couldn't kill them so decisively. Yi Tianyun put Shi Shuiyun on the edge of the city wall, and just as he landed, the guards next to him looked at him in shock. When they were about to say something, Suo Kaifeng waved his hand and signaled them to leave. Yes, Patriarch. The guards nodded and returned to their posts. They looked at Yi Tianyun from top to bottom. This was the first time they saw Yi Tianyun, so they were a little surprised. Those who could fly were definitely the inner elders, but they had never seen Yi Tianyun before. Suo Kaifeng said solemnly, "Friends of the divine nations, if you come to visit us, we will welcome you very much. But now, you have brought so many people, what do you want?" Suo Kaifeng wasn't as calm as Yi Tianyun. When he saw so many experts, he was a little worried. It was going to be difficult to deal with so many experts. This was the strength of the 8 divine nations. After counting, there were a total of 8 divine nations attacking. This was a rare sight. There were very few forces that could provoke so many divine nations. Either they provoked all the forces in the world, or they had a lot of resources. Otherwise, it was impossible for so many forces to besiege them. The Fengtian divine nation was obviously the latter. Treasuring a jade ring was a crime, but it didn't matter if they had protected the heavenly world in the past. So, it's Patriarch Suo. Our purpose in coming here is simple. We saw a peerless genius that can light up 10 stars. This time, we're here to congratulate you. Aren't you going to invite us in? The leader of the group was the heavenly divine nation's ruler, Shahetian. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at the city wall. Even in the face of this terrifying defense, they had no intention of backing down. That's right, seeing a super genius appearing in your country, it would be hard to express our sincerity if we don't congratulate you. The blessed Buddha divine nation's ruler, Celestial Silkworm, said amiably, as if he was really here to congratulate them. Every one of them was beaming with joy, looking harmless to humans and animals. If Yi Tianyun really believed them, then he would have seen a ghost. If he really came to congratulate them, did he really need to bring so many experts? If they really opened the city gate and let them in, it would immediately cause chaos. If the Fengtian divine nation didn't rely on the spirit array to suppress them, it would really be destroyed. With so many Saint King Stage and Spirit King Stage experts, it was more than enough to crush them. A dozen Saint King Stage experts and dozens of Spirit King Stage experts, just these numbers alone were enough to scare them to death. There's no need for that. We appreciate the goodwill of the various kings. If you want to come in as a guest, I hope you can come in alone. There is no need to bring the rest of your entourage. Suo Kaifeng said indifferently. I think the Fengtian divine nation is not as chaotic as other places, so there is no need to be so cautious. Yi Tianyun didn't point it out, he just wanted them to leave. Chapter 739. The rulers of the various divine nations exchanged glances and smiled. However, their smiles quickly disappeared and were replaced by cold sneers. All right, I won't beat around the bush. I'll give you 2 choices. Either you destroy your nation, or you hand over all your inheritances and kill the genius who activated the 10 stars. Celestial Silkworm's benevolent face suddenly revealed a malevolent expression. His previous benevolent expression was nowhere to be seen. He looked like a god of death. The other rulers also revealed the same malevolent expression. This was their original intention. Either they destroy their nation, hand over all their inheritances, or kill the 10-star genius. They didn't want a second king of the heavens to appear and suppress them. If that happened, They wouldn't have a chance to turn the situation around. Their only chance now was to attack. Even if they suffered some losses, they had to suppress the Fengtian divine nation. Suo Keifeng's eyes were filled with anger. This was indeed their goal. Even though he had already guessed it, he was still incomparably angry when he heard them say it. The weak were prey to the strong. The point was that the Fengtian divine nation had protected this place for so long, but in the end, it was destroyed. It was truly a tragedy. What are you talking about? I'll say it here. Either we suffer some losses and destroy your entire Fengtian divine nation, or you lose a genius and hand over all your inheritances. Hurry up and make your choice. We don't have that much patience. Shahatian sneered and said, don't think that your city gate can stop us. With so many experts, even if it's difficult to break through, it's not impossible. If you have the confidence, you can try. When the time comes, it won't be as simple as taking away the inheritances. The two of them were the representatives of the 8 divine nations. Their factions were the strongest, and their cultivation was also the highest. When the elders came over and heard these words, their hearts sank. They were furious to the extreme. It seems like you've been eyeing our inheritances for a long time. This time, you've finally revealed your fox tail. Suo Keifeng said coldly. What do you mean we've been eyeing your inheritances for a long time? You have so many inheritances. It won't kill us to contribute some. We're here with the attitude of learning. We want to learn from you and ask you to give us some legacies. Don't worry, we won't take it for free. When the time comes, we'll also give you some elixirs or martial arts in exchange. I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. Celestial Silkworm smiled evilly. It sounded so nice. When the time came, no one knew what kind of martial arts would be given. Maybe it would be the worst martial arts, or maybe it would be an ordinary 2nd or 3rd grade pill. They had already fought their way to the doorstep. If they wanted to exchange items for martial arts, they would have come here personally instead of bringing an army here. A bunch of maggots. They haven't done anything, but they're actually making a ruckus in the Fengtian Divine Kingdom. At this time, Yi Tianyun stepped forward and looked down at them. He said coldly, I don't know how many of you know, but if the Fengtian Divine Kingdom didn't deal with the demons, would you trash still be alive in this world? His words attracted the gazes of many people. 10,000 pairs of eyes stared at him. Someone actually dared to call them trash. Brat, we're talking to your tribe leader. Why are you interrupting us? Shahatian said unhappily, Tribe leader Suo, your disciples are a little too weak. Don't they know that elders can't casually interrupt? Suo Keifeng didn't say a word. He didn't know what Yi Tianyun wanted to do, but he didn't refute him. I'm asking you now. If not for the Fengtian Divine Kingdom, you'd already be dead. If you know, I'll give you a chance. Get out of here. If you don't know, you can choose to go back and ask your ancestors how much the King of the Heavens sacrificed in exchange for peace. Now, not only are you not repaying the kindness, but you're also thinking about the legacies. You're simply a bunch of scum. You might as well save a dog. A dog can wag its tail at people. What about you? You're just a bunch of ingrates. After saving you, you bite back. What a waste of kindness. Yi Tianyun's words were very sharp and pierced straight into their hearts. Everyone looked at each other and burst into laughter. They didn't take him seriously at all. Brat, you're still too young. That's in the past. Now is the present. It has nothing to do with the past. Moreover, did we ask the King of the Heavens to save us? We didn't, right? That was because he wanted to kill that demon. It had nothing to do with us. Shahatian said infuriatingly. The key was that after he said this, many of the country leaders laughed and agreed with him. They didn't have any intention of going back on their words. That's right. That's all in the past. If the King of the Heavens was still here, we would still show some respect. Now that the King of the Heavens isn't here, you still want us to listen to your orders? Don't be silly. The weak are prey to the strong. You guys are too weak now. I've been waiting for you guys to slowly decline. Who knew that a genius would appear? Brat, I have to say that you're quite arrogant. I want to add a condition. Other than the genius, your life is also included in it. The heavenly silkworm emperor was also unhappy with Yi Tianyun, but he didn't know that the person they wanted to kill was Yi Tianyun. Suo Kaifeng and the rest were angry. They didn't expect them to say such words. They had sacrificed so much and it was all eaten by a dog. No wonder the King of the Heavens said that he doesn't expect others to repay his kindness. It would be good enough if they don't offend us. Yi Tianyun shook his head. A cold killing intent surged in his eyes. Very well. Since that's the case, I'll replace the heaven bestowment divine king and kill all the invading enemies. I'll let you know that some dignity cannot be violated. No matter how many years pass, it's not something that trash like you can violate. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold. He took a step forward. He didn't fall down from the city wall. Instead, he walked forward step by step, walking in the air. When the country leaders below saw this, they were stunned. I didn't expect you to have a flying token. If not, you would have fallen down long ago. You dare to call us trash? Then you should die first. Celestial Silkworm threw out a beam of cold light that shot up to the sky. They couldn't fly, but attacking was not a problem. Die. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold. He grabbed the evil spirit divine sword in his hand and swung it at Celestial Silkworm. Buzz. An incomparably pitch-black beam of light pierced towards the Celestial Silkworm monarch. It had just been swung out when it rapidly expanded to 3 times its original size, slashing down like a pitch-black sickle. Celestial Silkworm Heavenly Emperor's face changed as he felt the terrifying power coming from Yi Tianyun's body. He wanted to avoid the attack, but with his speed, how could he compare to Yi Tianyun? Poochie. Under this swift and violent blacklight, Celestial Silkworm was immediately cut in half. Terrifying black flames madly engulfed his body and burned it. His screams resounded throughout the world. With a single sword strike, Celestial Silkworm, a 6th layer Saint King stage 6th layer Celestial Silkworm, was cut in half at the waist, shocking all the country leaders. What is this kid's background? Everyone had this thought in their hearts. At such a young age, he was able to kill his opponent with a single sword strike. It seemed that he wasn't an old monster, but was really very young. How could he kill a country leader at such a young age? Chapter 740. While many of them were trying to guess who Yi Tianyun was, Yi Tianyun gave them the answer. He was a genius who could awaken 10 stars. The genius they wanted to kill was none other than the young man in front of them. With just one sword strike, the Celestial Silkworm was cut in half. This terrifying power made everyone dumbfounded, as if they had seen a ghost. How is this possible? Didn't he just go to test his bloodline power? How can his cultivation be so terrifying? They were all shocked. Usually, those who went to test their bloodline power were new disciples, such as newborn babies. They all thought that they would be testing their bloodline power on a baby, but they didn't expect that it would be a young man. There was only one possibility, and that was, he had been outside for a long time and had just returned. Even though they had planted a lot of spies among them, none of them were able to get any information about Yi Tianyun's bloodline power. Save me! Save me! Celestial Silkworm didn't die under the sword strike, but he was still burning. His screams pulled them back from the shock. Some of them immediately tried to rescue him, but as soon as they got close to him, the Spirit King stage cultivator who was about to rescue him was set on fire. Ah! The Spirit King stage cultivator screamed in pain and kept waving his hands, trying to get rid of the flames. However, once the flames stuck to it, they would not disperse. Unless the area that was being burned was cut off, they would continue to climb up. Quick! Cut off the burning area. Someone saw that the flames couldn't be extinguished, so he immediately ordered someone to cut off the burning area, but it was too late. The flames had already burned half of the Spirit King stage cultivator's body, and if they wanted to cut it off, they would have to cut him in half. In just a few moments, a Spirit King stage cultivator was burned to death. On the other hand, the Celestial Silkworm country lord hadn't been burned to death and was still holding on bitterly. It's not that the Heavenly Silkworm King's cultivation is high, but Yi Tianyun deliberately didn't want him to die so quickly, he wanted him to feel the pain first. He's dead. He's dead. A cultivator who was at the 8th layer of Spirit King stage was shocked when he saw Yi Tianyun was burned to death. Just a little bit of flame was enough to burn a person to death. This power was truly terrifying. Shahatian and the others were all dumbfounded, especially Celestial Silkworm, whose cultivation was similar to theirs, but he had been killed with a single slash. Just how much of a difference was there between them to achieve such an effect? Don't be so arrogant. We have so many people here. Even if you are powerful, can you kill all of us in one go? Shahatian did not cower in the slightest. Instead, he furiously roared, "Kill them all. Let's charge in and slaughter the entire sealing divine nation." Roar. One by one, they couldn't wait any longer and quickly rushed towards the city wall. They all took out their strongest weapons and prepared to smash the city wall or climb it. They were all powerful cultivators, but now, it was as if they had returned to primitive times, and all of them wanted to climb up the walls. They didn't need to break down the city walls. Instead, they climbed up. Activate the Great Array. Suo Keifeng's eyes were cold, without the slightest trace of fear. Since the other side had thrown caution to the wind, they were not weaklings either. They would go all out and kill all the invading enemies. Immediately, the Great Array was activated, and a thick shield was released, sending many cultivators flying. At the same time, a powerful force was released, pressing down on the invaders, trying to flatten them. Let's join forces and break this shield. Shahatian and the other kings exchanged glances, and they quickly gathered together. More than a dozen Saint King stage powerhouses joined forces, and their power instantly soared into the sky, transforming into a terrifying sharp sword floating in the air, and then fiercely slashed towards the shield. Boom! Under the ferocious attacks, a crack appeared on the hard shield, and a deafening sound spread in all directions. What was even more amazing was that a terrible force penetrated into the shield, and the impact on the guards on the side of the city wall caused them to be sent flying, and all of them suffered serious injuries. With just one move, a crack appeared on the barrier. If this were to continue, the barrier would definitely be easily broken. Sure enough, you came prepared. It seems like you have been plotting this for a long time. You even have a body fusion martial art. Suo Keifeng and the other kings' faces were gloomy. They believed that they had tried this before, otherwise, they wouldn't be able to cooperate so well. Do you think that you will be safe in there? You are too naive. We will break this broken turtle shell in no time. Shahatian sneered and said. You will die soon, and the Fengtian divine kingdom will disappear forever. In addition to them, there were also many Spirit King stage cultivators who joined hands to attack the thick protective shield. If they didn't destroy the shield, it would be difficult to enter. Many people panicked. The originally indestructible shield was cracked, and if this continued, it would definitely be destroyed. Without this shield, what else could they use to resist this group of powerful enemies? Is this all you've got? Yi Tianyun, who was standing in the air, looked at them coldly. If this is all you've got, then it's time to end it. Boy, I know that your cultivation is not weak, but do you think that you are the king of the heavens in front of so many of us? When Shahatian saw his disdainful expression, he flew into a rage and said, Let's break this barrier together and kill all these conceited bastards. All the inheritance of the king of the heavens will be ours, including all the treasures. Hearing Shahatian's roar, everyone's aura skyrocketed as if they were injected with chicken blood. Especially when they heard that they could obtain the inheritance of the king of the heavens, they were very excited. They had been stagnant for too long, and this was the main reason why they joined forces to attack the Fengtian divine kingdom. They wanted to see how they could continue to break through the inheritance. Therefore, they had to put aside all the rules and favors. All they wanted now was to break through, nothing else mattered. I am not the king of the heavens, but I am his descendant. Yi Tianyun waved his hand, and the thick clouds in the sky suddenly dispersed. 10 rays of starlight shined in the sky, and almost instantaneously, a terrifying light beam blasted from the sky, covering an area of up to 100 meters wide. It was not aimed at Shahatian, but at the Spirit King stage powerhouses behind him. In an instant, the light beam enveloped all the Spirit King stage powerhouses. As soon as the light beam enveloped them, it quickly destroyed everything in its path. Not a single scream could be heard. After the dazzling light disappeared, all that was left was a huge hole. There wasn't even a corpse left. Chapter 741. There was no sound of an explosion, nor were there any screams. Everything disappeared just like that, as if it had been ruthlessly dug out. What was left behind was a large empty space that was 100 jong wide. Looking down from above, it looked like a bottomless pit. Ding successfully killed first layer Spirit King stage invader, gained 600 million EXP, 25,000 crazy point, obtained. Ding successfully killed 5th layer Spirit King stage invader, gained 900 million EXP, 33,000 crazy point, obtained. Ding successfully killed 6th layer Spirit King stage invader, gained, in an instant, a large number of Spirit King stage experts were killed, not to mention all the Spirit King stage experts. 90% of the Spirit King stage experts were instantly killed and turned into ashes. Then it turned into a pile of EXP, crazily rushing to the system in Yi Tianyun's head. Ding, congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to 2nd layer Saint King stage. After killing so many Spirit King stage experts, he directly stepped into 2nd layer Saint King stage in one fell swoop. This was all thanks to the 80 times EXP card that he got from the lottery. After stacking 32 times, he got 112 times EXP. Spirit King stage experts didn't have a lot of EXP, but under the effect of 121 times EXP, he got an amazing amount of EXP. Especially when there were a lot of Spirit King stage experts, there were at least 50 or 60 of them. Under this terrifying attack, he instantly lost more than 90% of his strength, allowing him to immediately break through to the Saint King stage 2nd stage. Sure enough, when a large number of experts gathered together and killed them, it was the best time to earn EXP. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough crazy point, otherwise, he could buy a 100 times EXP card. The effect would be amazing. It's just that gaining crazy point was much more difficult than gaining EXP. The increase of EXP was over 100 million, but the increase of crazy point was only a few tens of thousands, at most a few 100,000. If it was easy to gain EXP, he would have already leveled up his divine skills. Not only is it great to gain EXP, but also to kill a group of scum. Yi Tianyun felt very comfortable in his heart. A bunch of ingrates. He didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt when he killed them. There was only endless pleasure. Staying behind was just a bunch of scourges. The demons hadn't even attacked yet, but they were already killing each other internally. Especially when he said that the life and death of the demon beasts had nothing to do with them. Who asked the King of the Heavens to eliminate the demon beasts? If you have the ability, don't try to clear it. If the King of the Heavens had heard these words, he would have felt a chill in his heart. He didn't ask for all of his assets to be repaid, but saying such words was really disgusting. The sudden change scared everyone. In just a blink of an eye, a large number of Spirit King stage powerhouses were gone. It was as if he had vanished from the face of the earth, gone just like that. Many of the country rulers were so frightened that their hearts trembled. They stopped their attacks and raised their heads to look at Yi Tianyun in shock, as well as the 10 stars in the sky. What kind of power is this? Could it be the power left behind by the King of the Heavens? That must be it. If I was hit by that power, I'm afraid I would also die. What's the point of fighting? I surrender. With just one move, they were all scared out of their wits. Many of the country rulers raised their flags and surrendered, not daring to continue attacking. If they continued to attack, they would be turned into ashes with just one more move. Suo Keifeng's side was also stunned. They had never seen such a terrifying power of the stars. Although they could use the power of the stars, they had never used such a terrifying power. In just a blink of an eye, a large number of Spirit King stage experts were killed. If it were them, it would take a lot of effort to kill so many Spirit King stage experts. If there were so many Spirit King stage experts, it would be even more difficult to kill them. In the blink of an eye, most of the Spirit King stage powerhouses and the elite elders of the 8 divine nations were annihilated. Surrender. Do you think there's any meaning in this? Yi Tianyun looked at many country rulers who were begging for mercy. His eyes were filled with coldness. Only after witnessing the power of the 9 divine nations would they regret it. No, don't pay attention to him. He might only be able to use it once. Who knows when he'll be able to use it again? He is just trying to scare us. Don't be afraid of him. We will continue to fight. Shahatian shouted. Moreover, he killed many of our elders. We must avenge them. We must not surrender. Shahatian's instigation skill was indeed good, but more importantly, he couldn't swallow this humiliation. As a country ruler, he obviously didn't want to give up. Especially since Yi Tianyun had killed so many of their people, he was shocked and angry at the same time. But if most of the country rulers chose to give up, then they wouldn't be able to attack the city anymore. After all, the energy shield was too hard, and they didn't know how long it would take for them to destroy it. Are you sure you can only use it once? Yi Tianyun looked at Shahatian and sneered. Your instigation skill is good, but do you really think I will give it a chance to kill those Spirit King stage cultivators instead of you? I don't know if you are too stupid or I am. Yi Tianyun looked at them sarcastically as if he was looking at a group of ants. Under the effect of this top-grade divine artifact, these Saint King stage cultivators were just a group of ants. He didn't even use his full power, just a small part of it was enough to kill them. This was the power of a divine king. As long as he moved his finger, most of the Saint King stage cultivators would turn into ashes. As soon as Yi Tianyun said this, the country rulers who had been instigated were stunned as if a bucket of cold water was poured on them. If he could only use it once, why would he waste it on those Spirit King stage cultivators? No, don't believe him. Let's continue to attack. Shahatian still chose not to believe Yi Tianyun's words. Don't worry. Regardless of whether you believe me or not, you will all die here today. There's no medicine for regret here. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold as he flicked his finger, and the 10 stars in the sky shone with dazzling light. Terrifying spiritual power condensed once again, and its power was even more tyrannical than before. Many of the country rulers were scared witless as they ran to the side as fast as they could. When he looked at Shahatian, he realized that his speed was even faster. He was running much faster than anyone else. He was the one who shouted the loudest before, and now he was the one who ran the fastest. You can't escape. Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold, and before he could finish his words, he had already launched his attack. This time, the range of the attack was hundreds of meters wide. Although the speed of their escape was very fast, the speed of their attacks was even faster, and they instantly enveloped all the Saint Kings. Huala. Chapter 742. Yi Tianyun's attack was stronger than the previous one, but this time it was aimed at all the Saint King stage experts, and it was a complete suppression. Just like before, the area shrouded by the death ray was completely hollowed out, and the Saint King stage experts couldn't even scream before they were completely suppressed. Everyone looked at the area shrouded by the death ray. The power of the death ray was much stronger than before. They couldn't imagine themselves being shrouded by it, and their hearts couldn't help but tremble. If they were hit by the death ray, they would definitely die without a doubt. The power of the death ray was too terrifying. It was much more terrifying than before, especially the previous attack that killed a large number of Spirit King stage experts. If they were hit by it, they would definitely die. Isn't the power of the stars a little too terrifying? That's right, I've never seen such a terrifying star power. So many elders have used it before, but the most they can draw upon is the power of 5 stars, which is already quite heaven-defying. Now it's 10-star power. At present, he is the only one who can summon 10-star power. Fortunately, he is from our Fengtian divine empire, otherwise we would all be dead. Everyone looked at Yi Tianyun with awe. Some of them just knew that it was Yi Tianyun who summoned the 10-star power, but most of them didn't know that the 10-star power was a super divine tool. With 10 divine tools attacking at the same time, as long as one wasn't a God King stage expert, they would definitely be suppressed to death. Especially with the 10 divine tools absorbing spiritual power from the surroundings, and under the powerful divine rune array, their power was definitely beyond imagination. And with the power of the King of the Heavens, their power was amazing. Otherwise, how could they suppress the Demon King? Ding. Successfully killed Heavenly Rain Monarch. Reward, 3 billion EXP, 250,000 Crazy Point, 30,000 SPS, successfully killed Rain State Preceptor, got 8 billion EXP, 200,000 Crazy Point, 28,000 SPS, got, ding, successfully killed Ink Cloud Monarch, experience gained, ding, ding. Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to Saint King Stage 3rd layer. One by one, the monarchs and imperial preceptors were slaughtered like chickens and dogs. They were easily killed without even having the chance to resist. This power was too terrifying, even Yi Tianyun was deeply shocked. Now, with more than half of its original strength, its power had reached 40 billion battle power. Even a peak Saint King stage powerhouse would be instantly crushed to ashes. Now that the cultivation states of these country kings weren't all that strong, they were easily suppressed. However, there were still a few rulers who had decent foundations. They all had astonishing divine artifact-level magic treasures. Thick barriers enveloped them as they flew up. It looked like nothing had happened, but the barrier had been mostly destroyed and was on the verge of collapsing. Overall, they had suffered minor injuries. Even with the protection of a powerful shield, they were still affected a little. Only less than half of the powerhouses survived this wave of attacks, and Shahatian was one of them. Their eyes were filled with fear. Even though they had powerful treasures, they were still suppressed and injured. This power was truly terrifying to the extreme, shocking everyone. Half of them are still alive, no wonder I can't advance 2 levels in a row. Yi Tianyun shook his head. No wonder he couldn't advance 2 levels in a row. Who knew that almost half of them were still alive? According to his estimation, they could advance at least 2 levels. Although his cultivation had increased, it was only an increase of 10 billion experience points per level. This meant that he now needed 50 billion experience points to level up. Just hearing it made his scalp tingle. No wonder it was extremely difficult for a Saint King stage powerhouse to break through. Now, it was extremely difficult for him to advance. Without high multiplier EXP card, it would be really difficult for him to advance. Especially if he didn't have Spirit King stage cultivation, he wouldn't get any EXP below the Spirit King stage, he couldn't advance even if he slaughtered an entire city. It would take too much time. Even stacking 32 times EXP wouldn't work. Only by stacking a few hundred times EXP would he be able to advance. You. Who do you think you are? If you have what it takes, then come fight us. Using a treasure left behind by the heaven-sealing God King? What kind of skill is that? Shahatian took a deep breath and then began to provoke them. That's right. If you have the ability, then come down and fight with us. If you don't have this weapon, then you are nothing. If you don't have the ability, then why are you still standing there arrogantly? The other king shouted loudly. They knew what Shahatian was thinking. He wanted to provoke Yi Tianyun so that he wouldn't use the star artifact. If he used it again, they would definitely die. Although the treasure could resist once, it didn't mean that it could resist a second time. Don't listen to his provocation, they just don't want you to use the star power, Suo Kaifeng hurriedly shouted. If Yi Tianyun went down, he would have to face 7 or 8 Saint King stage powerhouses, especially when they had a trump card. Yi Yuanlong and the others also had a worried look on their faces. They hadn't been with Yi Tianyun for a long time, so they didn't know what the real situation was. Because Yi Tianyun was too young, it was very likely that he would be provoked, so they hurriedly tried to persuade him. Shishuayun didn't say a word. She also didn't refute the others. She knew that Yi Tianyun had his own ideas, and it was his own business to decide what he wanted to do. Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently and flew down directly. The stars in the sky were once again shrouded by the clouds. Without a doubt, he chose to listen to Shahatian's words and didn't use the star power anymore. That's great. What an idiot. His talent isn't bad, but he's too young. He was provoked successfully with just a few words. He's really too stupid. Shahatian's eyes lit up, and he quickly transmitted a message to the other rulers. This brat has taken the bait. Later on, let's work together to suppress him. As long as we kill him, there won't be any problems. The other rulers nodded heavily, their eyes filled with excitement. However, there was more fear in their hearts. If Yi Tianyun used the star power again, they would definitely be dead. Second Elder, come back. Suo Kaifeng hurriedly flew over, wanting to block in front of Yi Tianyun and stop him from continuing. He's provoking us. If we go over and fall into their trap, we'll be in trouble. I know, but in the face of absolute power, all schemes are meaningless. Yi Tianyun's tone was full of confidence. He wasn't an idiot. How could an existence that could create an empire be an idiot? He wanted to let the spectators behind him see that he was able to defeat so many powerhouses, not because he relied on the power left behind by the King of the Heavens, but because he himself possessed it. Chapter 743. When Suo Kaifeng heard Yi Tianyun's words, he was extremely anxious. He felt that this was simply nonsense. Before the protective shield was out, he hurriedly tried to persuade Yi Tianyun not to leave. If Yi Tianyun really died outside, the Fengtian divine nation would really be finished. Or rather, their future hope would be finished just like that. They could still defend against the attack of the army, but the person who could activate 10 stars was no longer around. The scene just now had left them dumbfounded. The terrifying power was enough to make them exclaim in admiration. As long as they were in the heavenly realm, who would dare to oppose them? Even if a second king of the heavens did not appear, just the power of the stars was enough to crush most of the god nations. They did not dare to say that they could crush all the god nations. The heavenly realm was so vast that it was hard to imagine. Some of the hidden forces might be extremely powerful. After all, after so many years, who knew if a heaven-defying genius would appear? But regardless of the other forces, the Fengtian divine nation had Yi Tianyun. At least the god nations would not dare to invade. Whoever dared to invade would be ruthlessly suppressed. Even if not all of them died, more than half would. As for the rest, they could completely rely on themselves to defend. Therefore, Yi Tianyun was their final trump card. They definitely could not let him die. Listen to me, don't go over. You've seen their combined attack, its power is extremely shocking. If you can't withstand it, you'll die. Suo Kaifeng persuaded earnestly and with good intentions. Kid, looks like you still intend to hide in that turtle shell. Then, you will activate the power of the King of the Heavens to suppress us? If that's really the case, I'm really disappointed. Didn't you think that you were very powerful before? If you have the ability, come and fight with us. A real man should rely on his own ability, not external power. If you rely on external power, can you still be considered a real man? It's not your own ability at all. Without the power of the King of the Heavens, you are just a fart, a coward. Shihatian scolded Yi Tianyun crazily. He simply wants to scold Yi Tianyun to the point that he is nothing but trash. Some hot-blooded youths were really easy to provoke. That was what they were aiming for. Young people who had achieved great things were easily arrogant. At that time, he would become very impulsive, and it would be useless for anyone to dissuade him. In order to prove himself, he would risk his life. They were more worried that Yi Tianyun would listen to Suo Kaifeng's advice. If he chose to retreat, they would lose all hope. Patriarch, I have my own plans. Yi Tianyun looked at him with determination. Suo Kaifeng saw that Yi Tianyun's eyes weren't lost at all. Instead, they were filled with determination and confidence. All right. Suo Kaifeng really chose to step aside. When he returned to the top of the city wall, he was shocked. Why did he agree just like that? He really did listen to Yi Tianyun's words and came back obediently, as if he had received an order. This was the benefit of having a high commander point. He could make others believe in his words and not blindly oppose him. This caused many disciples behind the city wall to be in an uproar. Why did the patriarch really let Yi Tianyun go alone? Wasn't that courting death? What's wrong with the patriarch? He actually let him go alone. Isn't that courting death? That's right. This is a genius who can control 10 stars. If he dies, who knows when we can find another genius like him? Damn it. Hurry up and stop him. If I could fly, I would have rushed up to stop him. All the disciples felt that Yi Tianyun's cultivation wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't at a heaven-defying level. He was able to suppress so many people before because of the power of the King of the Heavens. That was why he could kill so many experts with his sword. Good lad. This is a real man, Shihatian praised. In his heart, he was cursing, what an idiot. This behavior was indeed manly, but more accurately, he was more like an idiot. They almost cheered. At this critical moment, the other party was actually an idiot. How could they not cheer? Yi Tianyun landed on the ground and walked out of the barrier step by step. He waved the evil spirit divine sword in his hand lightly and maintained a calm expression on his face. With every step he took, they kept shouting in their hearts, hoping that Yi Tianyun would continue to walk out. When he walked out, they would immediately attack as a group and blast Yi Tianyun into pieces. Yi Tianyun didn't know what they were thinking. He sped up a bit and said indifferently, "It seems that you are very confident in your own strength. In fact, I have always seen a lot of strong people who think that they can win. In my opinion, cultivators often have a few big illusions. They are, I am a genius, I can break through, and finally, I can kill my opponent. Obviously, you guys belong to the third group of idiots. What's the point of saying so much nonsense? Only by coming out and fighting will we know who is right and who is wrong. Only then can we prove who is the strongest." Shahatian shouted. "No, thank you for not dying. I can use your strength to complete a small task for me," Xiao Luo said with a smile. Yi Tianyun walked to the edge of the barrier. Everyone's heart was about to fly out of their chest, whether it was Shahatian or the people in the city. "What is it?" Shahatian frowned. He didn't know what Yi Tianyun was talking about. He only knew that his mouth was talking non-stop. Shio. Suddenly, Yi Tianyun's figure disappeared, and the next moment he appeared behind them. Yi Tianyun's speed was too fast, so fast that they didn't even see him clearly. Poochie. Yi Tianyun gently slashed down and immediately cut an imperial preceptor in half. At the same time, black flame quickly emerged and burned the imperial preceptor to death. Ding successfully killed Imperial Preceptor Liu Yun. Reward, 3 billion EXP, 200,000. 000 CPS, 13,000. 000 SPS. As soon as Yi Tianyun killed an Imperial Preceptor, he quickly moved on to the other Imperial Preceptor. His speed was so fast that they couldn't even see him clearly. In the blink of an eye, the two Saint King stage powerhouses were easily chopped to death and turned into a large pile of experience that flowed into the system. Yi Tianyun immediately attacked again. He turned into a gust of wind and swept towards the Imperial Preceptor Liu Yun, but this gust of wind was like a sword. Originally, there were 7 or 8 people standing, but now there were only 3 people left standing. This scene shocked everyone. The Saint King stage powerhouse that everyone admired was easily beheaded without even the slightest resistance. It should be said that it was useless to resist. Yi Tianyun's speed was faster, and his power was stronger. Even his body-protecting magic tool was cut in half. This power is too terrifying. Is this his real strength? Too strong. Even if he doesn't rely on the ancestors' power, he is still so strong. I think I fell in love with him. One by one, the onlookers cheered. Almost all the disciples in Fengtian Divine Kingdom were excited. Yi Tianyun's reputation instantly exploded, and his favorability skyrocketed. "I'm using your lives to gain some favorability." Yi Tianyun's mouth outlined an evil smile. This situation is exactly what he wanted. Chapter 744. External forces could also intimidate others. However, relying on one's own strength to intimidate others was the only way to raise one's status. If there was no external force, then one would not be able to intimidate others. Of course, relying on external forces was also one's own ability. However, in order to maximize his prestige, Yi Tianyun chose to take action personally. He wanted to prove to everyone that the Fengtian Divine Kingdom did not lack expert. He also wanted to prove that his strength did not depend on the King of the Heavens, but on himself. The deafening cheers were the best proof. Many elders of the Fengtian Divine Kingdom shook their heads. It seemed that from today onwards, Yi Tianyun's reputation would definitely explode. It was too easy for him to become the second elder. Previously, many people did not know that he had become an elder. Even if they knew, they would definitely not be convinced. Now, he could easily increase his prestige by showing off his skills. He would be able to sit firmly in his position. Given his current situation, not to mention the second elder, even the great elder would be able to sit firmly in his position. Strength reigned supreme. This was an unchanging truth. He was not interested in the position of second elder. However, he had done so to stabilize the position of his father and grandfather. When everyone knew that Yi Tianyun was their son and grandson, they immediately felt a sense of reverence. If anyone wanted to deal with them, they would have to think about Yi Tianyun. When the day came when his sword slashed down, they would not even know what would happen. Run, run. After being stunned for a long time, Shahatien spat out these two meaningless words. Everyone knew that they had to run, but could they outrun Yi Tianyun's speed? In the next moment, the remaining three fled in different directions. However, their speed was not as fast as Yi Tianyun. In the blink of an eye, Yi Tianyun intercepted them and slashed down with the evil spirit divine sword. In their last moments, all they saw was Yi Tianyun's cold gaze. When they saw the look in Yi Tianyun's eyes, they completely lost consciousness. If it were a normal expert, they would still be able to live for a period of time even if they were cut in two. However, under the evil spirit divine sword's frightening soul-devouring power, coupled with the frightening black flames, it first dispersed their consciousness before they were burnt to ashes by the black flames. In this kind of situation, he was absolutely dead. He didn't even have the consciousness to resist before he was burned to ashes. This was his most powerful weapon. As long as one's soul was weak, they would be devoured by the evil spirit. 1. After Yi Tianyun reported the number, his figure flashed again and disappeared from where he was. He went to intercept the other two imperial advisors who were trying to escape. Don't kill me. I'm willing to submit to you. I'm willing to become a vassal of the Fengtian divine kingdom, Buzz. Yi Tianyun's answer was an invincible sword light that cut him in half. Yi Tianyun didn't have any intention of stopping. Surrender is meaningless to him. This kind of person was most likely to betray him. Keeping him around would be a scourge. The second one. In the next moment, Yi Tianyun appeared in front of Shahatien. After killing the two escaping experts, he was still able to catch up to Shahatien. It had to be said that Yi Tianyun's strength was overwhelming. If one or two escaped, no one would say anything. After all, the opponents were all Saint King stage experts. But now, not only had he killed the two escaping experts, he had also caught up to Shahatien. This kind of strength was enough to crush all the other emperors. Where do you think you're going? Yi Tianyun calmly blocked in front of him, scaring Shahatien so much that he almost fell to the ground. I. Shahatien was so scared that he stuttered. He couldn't even speak clearly, his eyes were filled with fear. He didn't expect that Yi Tianyun's strength was also so strong. When he saw Yi Tianyun easily kill Celestial Silkworm, he thought that Yi Tianyun had also borrowed the power of the King of the Heavens. Therefore, they planned to deceive Yi Tianyun into coming out. Once he came out, it would be their world. But who knew that Yi Tianyun was really powerful? He had the strength to crush everyone. Do you have any last words? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Why are you so strong? Are you the reincarnation of the King of the Heavens? Finally, Shahatien said. He really couldn't believe that Yi Tianyun could have such a strong cultivation at such a young age. They had seen countless geniuses, but they had never seen someone break through to the Saint King stage at such a young age. They had seen countless geniuses, but they had never seen someone break through to the Spirit King stage at such a young age. The current Yi Tianyun in front of them seemed to be beyond their expectations. The reincarnation of the King of the Heavens? Yi Tianyun said indifferently, the King of the Heavens is not dead. What reincarnation? The King of the Heavens is not dead. Shahatien was shocked. How is this possible? The three divine kings hadn't appeared for a long time, and everyone thought that they were dead. If they were still alive, they would definitely appear instead of hiding. Yi Tianyun also didn't know whether he was dead or not, but he didn't think that he would die so easily. How could such a powerful divine king die so easily? Believe it or not, it has nothing to do with me. Yi Tianyun raised the evil spirit divine sword in his hand and smiled indifferently, but there is one thing I want to thank you for. What is it? Shahatien clenched the long sword in his hand, and a light flashed in the depth of his eyes. He already had a new idea. Thank you for giving me so much experience. Yi Tianyun smiled, looking so harmless. In the next moment, Shahatian suddenly rose up, and the divine sword in his hand turned into a silver light that pierced through. In an instant, he ignited his blood essence, and performed the strongest move he had ever performed. In an instant, the area around his body was shaken into powder by the terrifying power, and at the same time, the area where Yi Tianyun was enveloped in it, sealing off all escape routes. Countless silver lights were released from the divine sword, and some even exploded from his body, condensing into a giant sword that pierced through the sky. Go to hell! Shahatian roared. He wanted to take advantage of the moment when Yi Tianyun was relaxed to launch a fierce counterattack. As long as he killed Yi Tianyun, he still had a chance. The divine sword was very fast, but the silver light was even faster. However, Yi Tianyun's evil spirit divine sword was still faster, and he gently slashed down. With him as the center, the silver light around him turned into powder, and quickly enveloped the area. Boom! A black light shot up into the sky, forming a black light pillar that connected the sky, and the original day turned into night in the blink of an eye. Many of the disciples in the Fengtian Divine Kingdom were stunned. They only saw a terrifying force slamming towards them, and it fiercely collided with the hard barrier, making pa-pa-pa sounds. Chapter 745. Ding. Successfully killed Shahatian. Reward, 10,002 billion EXP, 500. 000 Crazy Point, 500. 000 SPS Reward, Heavenly Stone Secret Art, Crystal Divine Art. Reward, Heavenly Stone Axe, Low-Grade Divine Tool, Heavenly Jade Stone, 20 times EXP card. Ding. Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to 4th layer Saint King stage. Finally, after killing Shahatian, Yi Tianyun successfully broke through to 4th layer Saint King stage. In this battle, his cultivation increased by 3 layers, which made him quite satisfied. It's a pity that he doesn't have enough crazy point, otherwise, he wouldn't be at this level. Unfortunately, the price is too high. 100 times card costs him 10 million crazy point. If he buys too many, the price will rise too much, so he can't afford it anymore. As for the rest of the EXP cards, he can't afford them. Now that he killed a large number of experts, he can finally afford a batch. It's just that it's not worth it to use them now, it's better to save them for later. There are a lot of divine nations, if someone provokes him, he won't mind helping them clean up. It's over. Everyone looked at the area where Yi Tianyun stood. Shahatian has already been destroyed, and only then did they realize what happened. Is it finally over? Yi Tianyun was able to kill so many experts from the 8 great divine nations, but they were all killed by Yi Tianyun. After everyone reacted, they were greeted with a burst of cheers. Everyone was excited. Although most of them have just seen Yi Tianyun, but since he can trigger 10 stars, it means that he is an expert of Fengtian Divine Nation. Since it's one of their own, how can they not be excited to be able to suppress so many experts of divine nations? Too strong. When did we have such a terrifying expert? Is he an old ancestor level figure, or the reincarnation of some strong expert? No matter who he is still a member of our Fengtian Divine Nation. Now, our Fengtian Divine Nation's ranking is even higher. Let's see who thinks that our Fengtian Divine Nation has declined. Patriarch is really secretive, he doesn't even let people out until it's a crisis. It might be our secret weapon. Who knew that it would be forced out? I guess what we're waiting for is for these blind god nations to come over. One by one, the disciples laughed heartily. They all thought that it was a secret weapon that the Patriarch and the others had hidden, and they would not use it until the critical moment. That way, they would have another trump card. When the others thought that the sky-sealing divine kingdom had run out of power, they would use it. At that time, it would be a heavy slap to their faces. Those who knew the truth were incomparably embarrassed. Previously, they were still mocking Yi Tianyun. Now, other than embarrassment, they felt even more guilty. If only Yi Tianyun stayed here, there wouldn't be any strong enemies coming to attack them. Hero! 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 All of them cheered. They didn't know Yi Tianyun's name, but they all knew him as a hero. He was their hero. If not for him, the Fengtian divine kingdom would have fallen. Hero? Yi Qianyun squinted his eyes and turned to look behind him. The disciples of the Fengtian divine kingdom were cheering, raising his reputation to an extremely high level. Everyone's impression of him increased explosively. Ding! Title saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda has successfully leveled up. Prestige points increased to 3,000. After hearing this, Yi Qianyun was momentarily stunned. This was considered saving people? If he thought about it carefully, he really did save people. If not for him, these experts would definitely have charged in and killed many people inside. Of course, all of this had started because of him. If not for him, the 8 god nations would not have sent their troops to attack. He was just a fuse that had been ignited prematurely. And it was the kind that would completely explode. If he wasn't here, it would still explode in a few years at most. It was just a matter of time. He had only ignited it prematurely. Who wouldn't be eyeing this place covetously? Therefore, from the perspective of cause and effect, Yi Qianyun had indeed saved them. If he hadn't returned, they would have also been attacked. At that time, the Great Elder and the Third Elder would probably still be immersed in their power. They would have fallen into the enemy's hands not long after they had stabilized their positions. 3,000 prestige points. My prestige points must have skyrocketed, right? Yi Qianyun felt the importance of prestige points. Sometimes, having a high prestige point would have a huge impact on one's character. When he flew back to the city wall, everyone's gazes were fixed on him. Each and every one of them had looks of worship in their eyes, as if they were looking at a great hero. An absolute hero. Only Suo Kaifeng and the rest sighed deeply. No matter what, Yi Qianyun had chosen to leave. He had already made the best decision. Stay, we welcome you here. Suo Kaifeng tried to persuade him to stay. Patriarch, thank you for your good intentions. The situation has improved, and it is indeed a good process. However, I don't need to be here for the time being. After this incident, I believe that the other divine nations that want to invade Fengtian divine country will give up on the idea, Yi Qianyun said with a smile. He was confident that his actions would ensure the safety of Fengtian divine country. He didn't dare to say that it would last forever, but at least it would protect them until the demons attacked. The 8 god nations' rulers and imperial advisors had all been killed. Even if the remaining experts couldn't take this lying down, they would have to swallow it. If they came again, they would all be dead. After all, they had all come prepared. Even if they came prepared, they would all be dead. Therefore, no matter how much they prepared, it would be meaningless. That's true. Suo Kaifeng shook his head. In the end, he gave up on trying to persuade them. He had only hoped to persuade them one more time. However, since they were all unwilling, there was no need to continue. Patriarch, we can't ask Qianyun to do too much. After all, we have always owed him. Yi Yuanlong looked at Yi Qianyun and said with a smile, this will always be your home. You are welcome to come back at any time. I will come back. Yi Qianyun looked at them for a moment. In the end, he bowed deeply to Yi Xingchen and Zhao Linghe before he said, we are leaving. If there is anything you need us for, we will definitely come back to help. Zhao Linghe's eyes reddened. She wanted very much to ask Yi Qianyun to stay, but after careful consideration, she finally let them go. Shortly after, Yi Qianyun and Shi Xueyun left quickly. When the cheering disciples saw Yi Qianyun leave with his people, they were all confused. Logically speaking, there should be a celebratory feast. Why did they leave? Our children have grown up. We don't need to worry about them anymore. Yi Xingchen patted Zhao Linghe's shoulder and said with a smile, what we need to do now is to make Fengtian God Nation stronger. From now on, we will listen to Qianyun's instructions and resist the demons. Chapter 746. The news of Yi Qianyun killing the 8 divine kingdoms king and imperial preceptor level powerhouses quickly spread and shocked most of the heavenly realm. A small number of people lived in seclusion in the mountains, so they didn't know about it. After knowing about it, most of them were deeply shocked and immediately ordered not to be enemies with the Fengtian divine kingdom. Even the 8 divine kingdoms were crushed, not to mention those who were weaker than the 8 divine kingdoms. However, the 8 divine kingdoms that participated in this war weren't the top 10, only some of them were. None of the top 3 divine nations had come, and no one knew what they were thinking. Only they themselves would know. For Yi Tianyun, if the top 3 divine kingdoms came, he would be more than happy to harvest the experience. Originally, he could go and harvest the 8 divine kingdoms, but after thinking about it, he gave up. After all, the real masterminds were the king and imperial preceptor. After eradicating them, there wouldn't be much harm to the 8 divine kingdoms, and it would also play a certain role in deterrence. If he killed them all, he would become a homicidal maniac, and it would cause a backlash. Many divine kingdoms joined forces to deal with the Fengtian divine kingdom. This was not a good sign. Yi Tianyun wasn't afraid, but it didn't mean that his family wasn't afraid. It was very likely that the beggar next to him was an enemy ambushing him. As long as he eradicated some of the stronger ones, those below the Spirit King stage wouldn't be a threat. Especially when the demonic beasts were attacking, they needed to unite. Without these greedy powerhouses, they wouldn't have any improper thoughts towards them. However, if they came again, he wouldn't mind annihilating them. Finally, I can relax a little. Yi Tianyun breathed a sigh of relief. He felt that everything was over, and it was time to leave that place. Is it because you haven't seen your parents for a long time that you feel a little depressed? Shi Xueyun saw through Yi Tianyun's situation at a glance. What really made Yi Tianyun uncomfortable was not a group of enemies. Yes, I'm still not used to getting along with them, but it will get better in the future. Yi Tianyun smiled. They haven't seen each other since childhood. Even if they spent some time together, they still felt a little restrained. It wasn't easy to get along with him. He could only take it slow. Moreover, most of the time, he didn't have time. It's okay. No matter if there's someone by your side or not, I'll always be by your side, no matter if your choice is right or wrong. Shi Xueyun leaned her head on his shoulder, looking so blissful. Xueyun, Yi Tianyun lifted her chin and kissed her gently. Complete main quest save father. Reward, 500. 000 000 EXP, 100. 000 crazy point, 2 lottery roulette ticket. Successfully accepted the main quest. Find the mortal world's Heaven Ascension Temple and gain control of it. Reward, 20 billion EXP, 150k crazy point. A brand new main quest had just popped up, which meant that he needed to go here to do the main quest. It was no different from what he had wanted to do before. Originally, when he returned to the mortal world, he needed to find the Heaven Ascension Temple in the mortal world and then reactivate the Heaven Ascension altar. Only by doing so could he freely traverse the 3 realms and consolidate his power in all 3 aspects. Now that he was in a hurry, he had a lot of time, but he needed to prepare more. Logically speaking, he could kill people to gain EXP and break through to God King stage, then he could solve everything. But for now, killing enemies without hatred won't give him any EXP, instead, it will deduct EXP. Only those who are hostile to him can be killed to gain EXP, otherwise, it will be deducted. The best way was to deliberately lure the other party to hate him, but this wasn't his style. He couldn't just go and kill the other party without doing anything. The best way is to kill demon beasts, which works, but it's not easy to find powerful demon beasts. Compared to this, it's better to do the main quest, so he can get a lot of EXP. Since the main quest was given to him, there must be some meaning in it. We are ready to return to the mortal world. Yi Tianyun took Shi Xueyun to the side of the passage and was ready to take her down. With your current situation, can you go down? Shi Xueyun wondered. If one's cultivation is too strong, it's not easy to pass through this passage. The passage not far away is relatively simple. It's actually a waterfall. You just need to slide down, but you can't fly. You can only use a boat to flow underwater. If one's cultivation is too strong, they will be blocked by the river, and the raging waves will hit them. It's enough to kill them. The stronger the cultivation, the stronger the waves. To put it bluntly, it's to stop those with strong cultivation from going down. Can I be the same as others? Yi Tianyun smiled and flew down with her. At this time, in the passage, there are many cultivators preparing to go down, but when they saw someone flying over, they were immediately shocked. Amazing, isn't this kid afraid of death? Flying here and directly to the passage, is he courting death so fast? Hehe, don't you see that the kid is hugging a beauty, he wants to show off. That's true, but when they fly over there, they will directly fall. When that time comes, there will be no boat, and they will directly sink to the bottom of the water. That will be fun. Yes, it's a pity that such a beautiful person will die down there, it's really a pity. Everyone shook their heads, they all felt that Yi Tianyun and Shi Xueyun were doomed. In one breath, they flew to the waterfall, and then plunged in, not to mention being pushed into the water by the pressure, they didn't even make a splash. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared from everyone's sight. There was no problem at all, they weren't restricted by the pressure at all. Immediately after, the group of people was shocked, it was very unbelievable. What's going on? They are fine. Or is it that the pressure here has disappeared, and they can fly freely? Soon after, he really dared to give it a try. He leaped to the side and tried to fly. At the same time as they jumped, it was as if there was an invisible hand slapping down, pressing them forcibly into the water, and very soon, they were swept into the water. A moment later, not even a splash was made. Everyone looked at each other, and from each other's eyes, they saw a ghost in each other's eyes. They couldn't even try, but they couldn't, and yet they could go down at will. Of course, they didn't know that Yi Tianyun, as the guardian, could easily go back and forth between the passage and the waterfall. It was the three god kings who controlled this passage, and as the guardian, they naturally could pass through it easily. Soon, Yi Tianyun easily took Shi Xueyun through the passage, and they returned to the familiar mortal world, back to the familiar heavenly clouds empire. As soon as they came back, they were immediately welcomed by everyone, especially Shi Xueyun. Everyone was very enthusiastic. Xueyun, the heavenly clouds empire can't do without you. Yi Tianyun said with a smile, Empress, it can't be without you. Tianyun. Shi Xueyun held Yi Tianyun's hand tightly, and she nodded with tears in her eyes. I will never leave this place again. This is my real home, this is the place that belongs to us. When everyone saw the two of them holding hands, they saw the surprise in each other's eyes. They had already felt it before, but they didn't say it out loud. Great Emperor, when will you hold a grand wedding? At this time, someone stood up and suggested. Chapter 747. The time to unify the three realms. These words made everyone's heart tremble. They felt that unifying the mortal world was already amazing, let alone the three realms. How much power and influence was needed to unify the three realms? Although they were full of confidence in Yi Tianyun, they had to admit that it was a bit far-fetched to say such words at this moment. Because it was too difficult. There were too many forces in the heavenly realm and the netherworld divine kingdom, and all of them were willing to surrender to him. So it wasn't that they didn't trust Yi Tianyun, but the goal was too terrifying. Everyone was a little embarrassed. According to the situation, they didn't know how long it would take to unify the three realms. Do you think it's difficult? Yi Tianyun looked at their expressions. He didn't need them to say it out loud to know what they were thinking in their hearts. They all felt that it was impossible. We don't doubt the strength of the great emperor, but we feel that it will take too much time. Won't we let Palace Lord Shi wait for too long? They were more tactful in their words. Even if Yi Tianyun really had the power to rule, how long would it take? 10 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years? They felt that it would at least take more than 10,000 years. For so many years, no one could unify the three realms, not a single one. Even the heaven-creating divine king or the king of the heavens, no one had unified the three realms. Yi Tianyun's words seemed to be a little too much. If we were married, she would be my wife now. Yi Tianyun said in an unquestionable tone. I just want to use the three realms as a betrothal gift to marry Xueyun. Unifying the mortal world as a betrothal gift is really not enough. I need the entire three realms as a betrothal gift to become the empress of the three realms. These words made their blood rush to the sky. Using the three realms as a betrothal gift, wasn't this a little too arrogant? But he was just that arrogant. He had the crazy system. If he couldn't even achieve this goal, then he wouldn't be successful. Shi Xueyun looked at Yi Tianyun and felt touched. But what moved her the most was Yi Tianyun's first words, that she was already his wife. She did not ask for a huge betrothal gift, she only wanted to stay by Yi Tianyun's side. Now that she had admitted that she was his wife in front of everyone, she was overjoyed. Status was always the most important. It proved how important a person was to others. Now, Yi Tianyun even said that he would use the Empress of the Three Realms as a betrothal gift. This was even more shocking. This made her very happy. She wasn't sure if it would work out in the future, but this promise alone was enough. However, she believed that Yi Tianyun would do what he said he would. He wouldn't make empty promises. Yi Yuwei and the others looked at him enviously, but they could only stand by and watch. They couldn't make any decisions. They also wanted to stand by Yi Tianyun's side and lean on him. But now, they already felt very happy. They could have their own status and do what they liked. Everything was given to them by Yi Tianyun. I believe many people think that we're biting off more than we can chew. That's understandable. Then let's focus on ruling the mortal world. From today onwards, we will spread our influence and negotiate with the other empires to form a grand alliance. We will become the alliance leader and lead all the forces. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. Rice had to be eaten one bite at a time. He didn't ask to rule the three realms immediately, but starting from the mortal world was not a problem. Forming a grand alliance. They looked at each other in confusion. Aren't we going to kill our way through like before? Their idea was to flatten the empires one by one. They would flatten those who refused to obey, then take over all the empires. It was that simple. Do you think I'm a homicidal maniac? To unify the mortal world, we don't need to use forceful methods. We just need to prove that we're the strongest. Then, they will listen to our instructions. We will form a grand alliance and let them follow us. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly. If we flatten them one by one, then we can be considered ruling. This will only lead to destruction. He admitted that he was strong enough, but it wasn't enough to kill all those who resisted him. The best way was to assimilate them. Slowly assimilate them. As long as they didn't have any hostility towards him, that would be enough. That's not a problem. But what if they don't agree? Yi Yue asked. Some forces are very unyielding. Unless we flatten them, they won't surrender at all. You just need to make it clear to them. What we need is an alliance, not an enemy. As long as they choose to surrender to us, they will be able to obtain a large amount of martial arts and even weapons. Lure them with benefits. Yi Tianyun threw out a few rings. These are for you. You can use them as enticement. That's quite a rough method. They looked at each other. It would cost a lot. With so many forces, if they all wanted some benefits, wouldn't they all be stripped bare? Just give as you see fit. We have our own bottom line. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. We can't just take whatever we want. It depends on their forces. If a second-rank force asks us for heaven-class martial arts, then that's impossible. Yes, we can do that. Yi Yue said. But what if there are still people who resist? Then we'll destroy them. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. I don't want to see any forces that resist me. If they resist me, then suppress them. I don't need them to listen to me. Instead, I need allies who can stand on the same side when necessary. Not slaves. You can tell them that. Yi Tianyun unifying the mortal world wasn't because he wanted to rule. It wasn't necessary. He did it to deal with the demons. Only by uniting could they fight against the demons. From the memories given to him by the King of the Heavens, he knew a lot about the situation at that time. There were millions, perhaps even tens of millions of demons charging over. They were densely packed together. Just relying on a few rankers wouldn't be enough to stop them all. They needed all of their forces to stop them. He didn't know if the demons would come. But it wasn't a problem to make preparations in advance. Killing the suppressed demons wasn't the final goal. Being able to stop the demons from outside was the key. If they were scattered, how could they deal with them? They didn't really understand what Yi Tianyun meant. From the start, they thought that Yi Tianyun wanted to rule them completely. But now it sounded like he was fighting against some other force. I know you don't understand. There are some things you can know. I'll explain it to you later. Chapter 748. When Yi Tianyun told them about the situation, they were stunned. They didn't expect such a thing to happen. This was the crisis of the three realms, and no one could be responsible for it. Great Emperor, this should be announced to all the forces in the mortal world. The spirit race patriarch finally recovered from his shock and said. The others nodded and agreed with Yi Tianyun. This was a dangerous situation, and they couldn't handle it alone. How many people do you think will believe us if we announce to them that this place is very dangerous, and we have to join forces to deal with the demonic beasts? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Everyone was startled. They believe Yi Tianyun's words, to a large extent, because Yi Tianyun is their leader. If it was someone else, the meaning would be different. They might think that it was a bunch of nonsense or an alarmist to deceive everyone. This matter happened so long ago that only a few people knew about it. After 10,000 years, how many people could live for more than 10,000 years? At most, they would record it down so that some people would know about it. But how many powerful forces could exist for more than 10,000 years? The situation of the forces in the mortal world was very fast, mainly because of the restrictions, so many late Spirit King stage experts left the mortal world to find a new place to break through. Without these powerhouses holding down the fort, it would be difficult for the inheritance to continue. It would be easily attacked, and at that time, the power would be replaced. The Heaven's Top Mansion was the best example. Originally, there was a Spirit King Shen Tian, but after he died, the Heaven's Top Mansion quickly declined. The Heaven Realm and the Ghost Realm were different. As long as they were not killed, they could keep the Divine Kingdom prosperous. In this case, there were very few imperial forces that had any inheritance, and it was impossible for them to know about the demonic beast's attack. There must be a lot of old ancestor-level experts in the Divine Kingdom who knew about it. Even if they didn't see it with their own eyes, they would at least record it down and warn them not to fight against the Fengtian Divine Kingdom. But in the mortal world, if they suddenly said that the demonic beast's attack was coming, they would be treated as fools. Even the strongest empires didn't have this, and they all thought it was very strange. Using this as an excuse to form an alliance was simply treating them as fools. They thought about it for a while, but in the end, they remained silent because they knew that no one would believe it. Well, it's precisely because no one believes it, that's why I gave them so many resources. It's useless to use this as an excuse. Let's form an alliance first, then everything will be easy. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Everyone nodded. They had a rough idea of what to do. They would just treat it as ordinary diplomacy. As for the demons, they would wait until the time was right. Tianyun, I also want to help, can I? Shueyun stood up and said. Yi Tianyun looked at her with a smile and said. Yi Tianyun said. You are the Empress, there are many things that you need to worry about. Otherwise, why would I bring you back? No problem, Tianyun said. Yi Tianyun. Yi was better than heaven. No problem, I promise to help you manage all the affairs. Shueyun smiled and immediately threw herself into the urgent work. The group of people began to make arrangements. There were many empires here, so it would take a lot of work to establish an alliance. However, Yi Tianyun knew that it wouldn't be a big problem. Now that the Heavenly Clouds Empire was famous, it wouldn't be a problem to establish an alliance and sit on the position of alliance leader. The problem was that it would take a little more time. Most of the empires were willing to surrender to them. This was all thanks to his previous efforts. He had flattened so many empires, so who would dare to resist? Resistance meant death. Yi Tianyun didn't worry about their loyalty. He just wanted to establish an alliance so that when an emergency happened, he could call for help. If it hadn't been set up yet, it would have been awkward if no one listened to the message he sent out when there was a crisis. Great Emperor, you are doing this silently, but they don't know that you are doing this for the safety of the entire mortal world. They might be forced to surrender, but they don't know that it's for their own good. Zhu Lingyun, who didn't leave, had matured a lot. She still looked ordinary, but she had a firm Dao heart. It's okay. There are too many people who scold me. What they think has nothing to do with me. Yi Tianyun looked at her and said with a faint smile, I just want to be able to unite against the enemy when there is a real crisis. I don't need them to know about this. I just want to reduce casualties when we fight the enemy together. This was his original intention. After all, it would be good for everyone. He didn't want everyone to be grateful to him. He just wanted a group of people to fight against the enemy and greatly reduce casualties so that the Heavenly Cloud's empire would suffer less. Otherwise, when the time comes, it would be extremely chaotic. If the demons were to wreak havoc here, the losses would be great. If the other forces were destroyed, it would affect the Heavenly Cloud's empire as well. It was always better to fight the enemy together than to fight alone. It's little Ju's blessing to be able to work for the great emperor. Ju Lingyun half knelt, her eyes were full of worship and respect. Well, go and do your own things. You must increase your cultivation. I can't protect all of you. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He shuddered when he thought of the memory given to him by the King of the Heavens. If he wanted to survive, he had to keep getting stronger. After that, he quickly flew to Devil Cloud Island, a place where many things had happened in the past. If Little Wu and the others weren't in seclusion, they could be of some help. Yi Tianyun shook his head. Before he came back, he went to see Little Wu, Hirongkuan, and the others. They were all in seclusion, and they wouldn't be able to come back for a while. In that case, he came back alone with Shishueyun. Soon, he arrived at Demon Cloud Island. Because the great array here was broken, there was no demon cloud in the sky. It was a very ordinary island. He found that many people had begun to settle here, forming a small island city. Such an amazing change surprised him a little. He didn't expect that in just a few years, there were already many cities here. It seems that after I cleared the demon beasts here and solved the demon cloud here, some people came to live here. But this is indeed a good place to hunt demon beasts. Yi Tianyun could see many cultivators hovering nearby, ready to hunt the demon beasts on the seabed at any time. This way, they could sell the demon beasts for money. Chapter 749. Yi Tianyun came to the Devil Cloud Island, glanced at it for a while, then ignored it and plunged into the sea. He was surprised that there was a small city on it, but it didn't matter much. Anyway, it didn't matter if it existed or not. He was here to find the Heaven Ascension Temple. After plunging into the water, he activated the appraisal eye at the same time, shrouding the surrounding, carefully exploring every detail around. When he was investigating, he was really shocked. There were many potholes under the water, and there were even more huge pits. At a glance, it could be seen that they were not formed naturally, but the battle marks formed by a great battle. In addition, he could also see a lot of wreckage buried deep in the ground. From the situation of exploration, it was definitely there for many years, not bones that were swallowed by demon beasts and spat out. However, those swallowed by demon beasts would basically not spit out bones, they would be directly digested. It seems that the Heaven Ascension Temple is nearby. The battle marks are so heavy, it must be the former demon battlefield. Yi Tianyun continued to explore the surroundings, swimming forward quickly. The heaven-creating Divine King built the Heaven Ascension Temple not by randomly choosing a place to build, but by looking at the concentration of spiritual power and the integration of heaven and earth. Of course, the most important point was that the position of the three Heaven Ascension Temples was the same. It could be understood that if it could go straight up, then the top of Yi Tianyun's head would be the Heaven Realm's Heaven Ascension Temple. If it went through the ground, then it would be the Underworld's Heaven Ascension Temple. The three altars were connected in a line. If one had a problem, it would not affect the other two altars, but it would not be able to teleport down. Therefore, it must not be moved at will. Once moved, it was basically equivalent to abolishing the teleportation effect. However, after being moved, the teleportation effect would be abolished, but the effect of fighting would still be there. There must be a reason why the heaven-creating Divine King arranged the Heaven Ascension Temple here. From the battle marks here, it can be seen that it should be near the area where the demon beasts descended, so it was built in 3 places. Only in this way could they support faster, otherwise, there was not much point in building a teleportation array. The greatest significance of building a teleportation formation was that it could quickly provide support. It could only attack as support. After all, this god altar couldn't move. Even if its attacks were shocking, it wouldn't be able to display its full effect. I wonder what happened to the Heaven Ascension Divine Altar. Why can't I teleport to it? Yi Tianyun frowned and continued to look around. Is it because of the seawater that the ascending heaven altar lost its effect? After thinking for a moment, he denied his own guess. The Heaven Ascending Divine Altar's grand array was so powerful, it was not something that mere seawater could destroy. However, when the Heaven Ascension Divine Altar was built, there definitely wasn't that much seawater. Something must have happened that led to the formation of this sea. Yi Tianyun kept guessing as he swam downstream. Soon, he found an area, a huge pit. It was a very large and deep pit. He roughly estimated that the area was basically the same as the area of Ascending Heaven God Altar. The area of the 3 Heaven Ascending Divine Altars was the same. Whether it was the exterior or the internal structure, it could be said that they were exactly the same. Therefore, when he explored the size of the pit, he immediately knew that this pit was originally the place where the Heaven Ascending Divine Altar was located. But now, the Heaven Ascending Divine Altar was gone. What's going on? The Heaven Ascending Divine Altar is gone. Yi Tianyun was shocked. He didn't expect that such a huge Heaven Ascending Divine Altar would disappear without a trace. What was left here was an incomparably huge and deep pit. Immediately, he swam around in a circle in disbelief. With his amazing speed, he could swim hundreds of miles away in the blink of an eye. Coupled with the area that the appraisal eye could cover, he had explored everything within a radius of a few hundred miles. Other than finding a lot of demonic beasts, there was no trace of the Heaven Ascending Divine Altar. Not to mention a trace, he couldn't even find a brick. What's going on? The Heaven Ascending Divine Altar really disappeared. Yi Tianyun frowned. All the mysteries were solved. No wonder he couldn't teleport to the mortal world. It turned out that the Heaven Ascending Divine Altar had disappeared. It seemed like it had been moved away. He really couldn't understand how there was such a powerful person in the mortal world who could move the heaven-creating Divine King's Heaven Ascending Divine Altar away. If there was such a powerful person, wouldn't he have dominated the entire mortal world long ago? But now, there was no movement at all. He had never heard of such a terrifying empire. This is troublesome. No wonder the mission gave me so much experience, and I want to obtain control of the Heaven Ascending Divine Altar. The rewards obtained were linked to the difficulty. The more difficult the mission, the fiercer the reward. Now that the reward was 30 billion experience, it seemed that he only needed to kill 2 or 3 Saint Kings to get it, but that was based on the premise of a terrifying amount of experience cards. Under normal circumstances, killing a Saint King would give him tens of millions of experience, at most hundreds of millions. In other words, it was equivalent to killing almost 300 Saint Kings. This meant that the difficulty was not low. Just thinking about the mission to kill a Divine King-level demon, one could imagine how terrifying it was. It seems that I can't find it in the vicinity. I either have to spend a few million to buy soul guidance, or I have to search honestly. Yi Tianyun frowned. He bought soul guidance once, and the price increased by 1 million, he could barely buy it with his current situation. It's not easy to earn a few million crazy points, it's really a waste to spend it like this. Forget it, I'll go up and ask about the situation first. Maybe I can ask something, I'll try my luck. Yi Tianyun can only choose to go up to Devil Cloud Island to ask about it. He didn't want to spend a lot of money to buy it. It's better to keep the crazy points to buy experience cards than to buy these soul guidance. To put it simply, it's just a guide. A guide costs a few million crazy points, it's better to rob. I don't believe it, this time I have plenty of time, I'll take my time to find it. Yi Tianyun quickly swam up and soon swam out of the water, but just after he swam out of the water, a surprised voice came from the side. Hey, look, someone is floating, hurry up and save him. A boat passed by on the side and happened to see Yi Tianyun emerging from the water, so it swam over here. Yi Tianyun watched them coming over, but he didn't fly up, but waited here obediently. He knew at a glance that this group of people who came to rescue should often hunt demon beasts here, so it's best to ask them. If there is any movement here, if there is any problem, they will definitely know first. Chapter 750. Kuala. Yi Tianyun was dragged onto the boat and saw 4 cultivators. Their cultivation level was not high, only at core condensation. The strongest one was the big man who shouted to save them, but his cultivation level was only at first level of spirit core. It seems that he had just broken through not long ago and just stabilized his cultivation level. The cultivation level of the cultivators here was generally not high. As for Spirit King stage cultivators, it was impossible for them to leave the island. Even Void Spirit stage cultivators were very rare. Void Spirit stage cultivators in the mortal world were considered as Great Emperor stage cultivators, or even General stage cultivators. How could they come to this remote place to hunt demon beasts? In addition to these low cultivation rogue cultivators, there were really no other cultivators here. There were many cultivators in this Devil Cloud Island, not all of them, but at least most of them were rogue cultivators. Their cultivation level was stabilized at core condensation. With this cultivation level, they could stay here and not be afraid of demon beasts. After all, they came here to hunt demon beasts. Demon beasts' materials and cores were precious alchemy materials. It can be said that Yi Tianyun was the overlord here. Of course, in the heavenly realm or the underworld, he was the overlord level existence. As long as there was no divine king, he would not dare to say that he was invincible, but at least he would not be afraid of any holy king. Thank you very much. Yi Tianyun smiled gratefully. He's not trying to be polite, he's really grateful. Under such circumstances, there weren't many people who were so kind-hearted. After all, warm-hearted cultivators were often easily deceived, so that the whole world became cold. Why are you in the water? Did the ship get attacked? Lin Xiong looked up and down at him. This place was still relatively far from Devil Cloud Island. Not to mention flying. In the case of not being able to fly, it was simply courting death. If no ship swam to Devil Cloud Island, it was estimated that by the time they reached there would be no bones left. No, I just swam here and was rescued by you. Yi Tianyun did not lie, he did swim here, the ship was not attacked. The other two looked at him with suspicious eyes. This place was so remote, how could he swim here? Was he not afraid of death? Boss, why do you save everyone? There's something wrong with this kid, he's actually full of nonsense. Maybe he got into trouble, so he abandoned the ship. I don't believe he can swim over from Devil Cloud Island. Yeah, it's very likely that his companions abandoned him, or he did something shameful. His companion whispered to him. Although the voice was very soft, Yi Tianyun heard it clearly. He couldn't help but smile and didn't say anything. It was normal for them to have such a guess. There were many demonic beasts under the water, and they were densely packed together. If not for his high cultivation, he would have been gnawed to the bone. Their ships were all relatively special. They could avoid the detection of demonic beasts, so they could travel here safely. If it had been an ordinary ship, it would have been broken long ago. When these demonic beasts sensed that someone had intruded into their territory, they would not be polite at all. Lin Xiong waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "There is no need to say anything. Whatever it is, we are preparing to return. Saving a life is always a good thing. Boss, have you forgotten what happened last time? You saved that kid. Who knew that kid would steal the demonic beasts that we worked so hard to hunt? Damn, if I met him, I would definitely cut him into pieces." This time, the voice was louder, and there was no intention to hide it. It was a warning to Yi Tianyun. Okay, not everyone is like this. Lin Xiong said in a deep voice, "I have been saved before. If it wasn't for someone saving me, I would have died long ago. It's not a bad thing to help others, and it's not like you are always by my side. Brother, I'm sorry. What my two brothers said was a bit too much. I hope you don't mind." Lin Xiong said embarrassedly. "It's okay, I can understand your feelings." Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently. He had seen this kind of thing many times, so he was not surprised. "Okay, let's go back now. We are just about to go back." Lin Xiong signaled his brothers to start rowing the boat to Devil Cloud Island. Even so, the other two companions looked at this side vigilantly. They were really not at ease. If there was a sudden sneak attack from behind, they would be dead. Of course, Yi Tianyun would not sneak attack. Instead, he asked, "Brother, what happened here recently? I just came here not long ago, so I don't know much about the things here. What happened?" What do you want to know? Lin Xiong said while rowing the boat. I have been here for a long time. I also participated in the establishment of Devil Cloud City. It can be said that I am the most senior generation here. So that's how it is. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He didn't expect this old man to be a veteran. It means that he has been here since the founding of the city. I don't know what happened here. What happened under the water? Changes under the water? Lin Xiong suddenly slapped his thigh and exclaimed, I remember. It was roughly more than a year ago. Suddenly, there was a surge in the water. We thought that a storm was coming. Who knew that we would see a palace, slowly moving in the water? It was moving towards the north at a moderate speed. We were all shocked. Many people went to see what was going on, but they were all killed by the sea monsters. There were just too many sea demons at that time. They were packed densely, moving the entire palace away. It was just too terrifying. Who would have thought that there was such a big palace under the Devil Cloud Island? At that time, no one dared to go into the water. There were too many demon beasts down there, but they were still far worse than the sea monsters. Those sea monsters were half human and half fish, and could speak human language. They were not as stupid as the demon beasts. Lin Xiong shook his head, and there was a little fear in his eyes. He felt a little scared when he recalled it. Sea monsters. Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed. He did not expect it to be a group of sea monsters. He had never seen a half-human and half-fish sea monster here. The mortal world was quite vast. He could not go to all places, so he had never seen such a type of sea monster. However, this sea was indeed very vast. He could not see the end. No one knew how vast the area covered by this sea was. Suddenly, he collected key information. That is, the sea monsters moved the palace, but they did not know how. It was very likely that they moved the palace away and made it their own palace. Other than that, is there any movement? Yi Tianyun asked. Chapter 751. A group of sea demons moved away the palace. Looks like I have to carefully search this area. It should be because the area they evacuated to is relatively far away. Yi Tianyun was thinking about how to find the sea demon, but no one knew where it had gone. Especially since the sea was too vast, he needed to search carefully before he could find the palace. Although his cultivation was not bad, it was not to the extent of defying the heavens. Even if it was a divine king, he would need to spend some time to find it. However, when one reached the divine king level, whether it was in terms of speed or range of detection, they were much faster than him. Back then, in order to find the hiding place of the demons, they had really turned the entire three realms upside down. Even with their astonishing strength, they had to spend a few months before they were able to search the entire three realms from top to bottom, without leaving a single blind spot. They would not let go of any hiding place. Who would have thought that the demons would not be able to hide, but would leave behind their descendants here? This was the most terrifying place. Since they could not break through, they would leave behind their descendants and slowly nibble away at this place. Therefore, it was time to properly investigate the evil spirit race. However, he thought that they should be in the underworld more often. With the evil spirit race's special cold bloodline, the underworld was the best place for them to live. Brother, is this your first time here? Lin Xiong asked. Yi Tianyun's question was immediately exposed. It was truly his first time here, otherwise, he would not have asked such a question. More or less. I've been here before, but the changes are a little big. Yi Tianyun did not lie. A long time ago, when he came here to hunt demon beasts, the disappearance of the black clouds was largely related to him. I thought it was your first time here. The changes are indeed not small, but the most important thing is that the black clouds have disappeared. In the past, it was called the Devil Cloud Island, but now, there are no clouds at all. However, because of habit, it is still called the Devil Cloud Island. Even the city built on it is called the Devil Cloud City. Lin Xiong continued to chat at the side. Immediately after, Yi Tianyun roughly asked about the other situations, including the recent situation here. Lin Xiong did not have any doubts and told him the truth. This would save him a lot of time to gather information, and he wouldn't need to go around to gather information. Big brother, this kid really doesn't know anything. He dares to come here. The companion next to him shook his head. His suspicion of Yi Tianyun was slightly reduced, but there was still some vigilance in his heart. Kid, let me ask you something. How did you suddenly appear here? Were you thrown into the sea? His companion couldn't help but ask.